Hey, everybody. Welcome to Lorebeards 40k. It's a special episode today. Special episode.
I got paint on my hand.
Oh, hi. Hello. Hello there. Hello, everyone. We're doing a special episode today. I know we had a poll up and we were going to do a different topic, but the Games Workshop Summer Reveal Show happened yesterday. And during the Summer Reveal Show, the very last part of it was a huge thing because Games Workshop revealed and announced a kill team for Eldari Exodites. Yeah. Why is this awesome? Why is this awesome, Alexis?
So in the 30 plus years that Games Workshop's been operating, this army has never had an actual model for the 28-32 millimeter 40k games. It's had it for Epic technically, but never for like the actual tabletop war game. And it is so cool to finally see them on the tabletop. And they actually, something that I got to rant about, they got the dinosaurs' wrists correctly. And technically they're dragon dinosaur riders. Yeah. But they got the wrist correct, and I'm happy about that. But they could have put them covered in feathers. But, that's just me. I'm going to nitpick a little bit. But I am stupid excited about them because it is so cool to actually see Eldar getting more and more love. And I'm really hoping they push this just a little bit further. And I'm hoping this box set sells out. I'm hoping every Eldar fan gets them because this looks really cool. Eldar this year have just been eating good.
They really have. That's true. I should point out the Exodites have had models before, but they were for Epic, and they were from 1990. So we're talking 36 years ago.
Look, I don't need to hear that, Ross. Like that is the year of my birth, and that is a long time ago.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So if you're not familiar with the Kill Team box of Exodites, please go to warhammercommunity.com. They have the whole thing up there. You can see all the models. The box set is not yet out. It hasn't been released. So what that means is what we're talking about today, to be very clear, we're talking about some very obscure lore from some very old sources. And at the time of this production, which is June 27th, 2026, we don't have the new lore yet. So we're going to concentrate on what we do know from the past. But everything we say today is only what was true many years ago. And it's very likely that a lot of things we talk about today may, in fact, change or be different as Games Workshop brings out more lore about the Exodites as they are returning to Warhammer 40,000. I am so excited! Oh my God! I lost my mind
Jurassic
Friday.
Park noise.
Yes, exactly. Angry Jurassic Park noises.
I was watching the reveal while getting drunk at a wedding. And then I was just like, yes! Luckily, it was at a time that they were celebrating at the same time. So I'm like, yeah, totally planned.
Necroplayer97, good to see you, Necroplayer. He says, what was y'all's history in this hobby with specific focus on the evolution of whether or not Exodites would ever get love on the tabletop as a start? Alexis?
Personally, I never thought Exodites until a week or two ago, when unfortunately the images of them got spoiled to me, and I was like, damn it. I really wanted to be surprised by them. I'm at the point where I actually hate spoiler channels where they're like, this is coming out, because it's always a grainy picture taken by Games Workshop staff, just to show like the miniature ahead of time, and it always annoys me. But when I first started this hobby, Eldar never got love at all. For like 20 years, they didn't get models or anything. They were actually put off to the side. I watched Tau get more models than Eldar did going throughout it. So Exodites were always a thing that I've seen people try to convert, and they would use the Lizardmen for it. And Lizardmen are a big part of the Exodite roster because technically the Carnosaur is there, but it's very weird.
Not Lizardmen, lizards.
Yeah.
To be clear. Because otherwise Sotek will walk in here and be like, hey, what are you talking about? Hey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Carnosaur of the Seraphon is something that was one of the miniatures you used for a Wraith Knight or Wraith Lord, and you'd put the cannons on its back, and you had some really cool conversions and everything. But did I ever think that we're going to get a miniature? No, not at all. Until very recently, because me and Ross started talking about this. I think even on camera we talked about this, where we're running out of armies that need to be represented on the tabletop.
There's very few left. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
like
opened the
Dark
vaults.
Mechanicum is the next one.
That seems like the one that is the most outstanding at the moment. Yeah.
Because they already started making their models, and it's in Legions Imperialis. You know, that super popular game that everyone plays, that GW
Hey,
just keeps pouring money into.
I like Legions Imperialis. I know you don't. That's fine, but I like it.
It is certainly a game that Games Workshop makes. I will say that its system is better than AOS, but that's just me.
So right now,
Uh,
what's running through my head is the Dinosaurs theme song, which is probably way too young. It's way too old for you to remember, which is fine. But Dinosaurs had a great theme song, and it's running through my head right now.
I I keep thinking calling all spider riders, but instead of spiders, it's dino riders.
Oh, Dino Riders was its own show too, actually.
Yeah. And then Zoids.
Oh
Like,
well, Zoids were robot dinosaurs.
yeah, but Zoids was badass and I absolutely loved it. Story made absolutely no sense because of all the censoring they did for the American release, but
Now, Alexis, the question was, what was your history in the hobby? Where
uh,
did you start?
well, I started like every nerd in a classroom looking at what my friend was looking at, which was the Sister of Battle Codex. I saw some artwork. I fell in love with how gothic and everything looked, and I was like, "This is amazing. I'm gonna make this part of my entire personality now."
My answer is a bit longer. I hope that's all right if I rant for a little bit. Back in the 90s, I was getting out of the army, so it would have been 1999 ish. And I was in an apartment in Kentucky outside of Fort Knox, which is where I mustered out. And the upstairs neighbors were playing 40k, and me and my crew, we were playing Shadowrun, and we were both loud. And they would hear us playing Shadowrun, and we would hear them playing Warhammer. And after a while, we actually started talking. We're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing up there? It sounds really interesting." And they'd be like, "Well, what are you doing down there? It sounds really interesting." And we just traded our stories back and forth, and they invited us up to check out Warhammer because I had never seen it prior to that, except in the pages of Dragon Magazine, which I've talked about before. So I went upstairs to these guys, and they were playing second edition Warhammer, and they taught me how to play. They showed me all the models, and crucially, they got me going with Eldar lore. And when I found out that the Eldar had ghosts piloting robots made out of bones, I was like, okay, this is so metal. I must play this game. I instantly went home. I made an army list. I obsessed over that army list, bought a bunch of Eldar, bought a bunch of Blood Angels because another friend of mine was a Blood Angel, Dark Angel fan, and we read the Codex Angels of Death. And I just started getting going and going and going. And for the next 3 years, I just would play Warhammer off and on whenever I could. There were local conventions in Louisville, Kentucky that I would go to and play, like a little 500 point, almost like a tournament, but not really quite like that. And I played a few games that were a little bit larger with other people. And then I saw a job opening at Games Workshop for a copywriter. And I was like, okay, what the hell? I'll throw my hat in the ring, see what they say. And I got hired, and that's basically how that went. But the Exodite part of that was, of course, the second edition Eldar Codex, where I read about the Exodites, and they had some cool art, black and white art. And I remember thinking, man, I hope they eventually do this army. And that was 36 years ago. Well, no, 27. It would have been 27 years ago. Still a long freaking time. Long time. All right, so thank you. Thank
Ross,
you, Necroplayer.
do you remember buying units and not knowing if they were good or not, and just having to just be like, well, I hope this works because this is all I can afford?
Yeah, I do remember that, and I remember obsessing over my army list from the third edition Eldar Codex and going, I have no idea if this is good, but it sounds awesome, so I want to play it.
Yep.
The height of non-optimized army lists back then. This is the point of the episode where I should say, if you want to support us and support the channel and keep more Lorebeards 40k content coming your way, super chats are the absolute best way to do it. We are grateful to everyone for all your super chats and your support, so keep them coming. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Ricky Chapman, We freaking cheered when our Dino Elf showed up. I lost my mind on camera.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And
They
we got one.
look really good.
Gary said, thank you so much. How do they control their beasts? The Navi way? Oh, that's potentially a little bit not safe for work, depending. Implants, telepaths, runic domination. Do they have wraith constructs? Yes, they do, and we will be talking about them. Do they have possessed dinos or fossils or plants? Probably not possessed. No.
I mean, it's kind of just a born in the saddle type deal.
I mean, according to the older lore, probably, yeah, but I think given the fact that all Eldari have psychic potential and a lot of their stuff is psycho-reactive, like Wraithbone itself, it's quite possible there is some sort of implant or connection that the Exodites have to their beasts that other Eldar do not. Although, again, Drukhari do have Beastmasters as well, so
yeah, I mean,
maybe
they're just really polite to them.
Wesley says Navi way is more like Kroot and their war beasts. Is it? I felt like they were plugging themselves in.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
Navi is weird.
It's a little bit questionable. Like, is that consent? Does consent required to plug in to another animal? Because that's fairly unique to the Navi. Kroot take a weird connection. I mean, they're all related with the Kroot. That's different. The Kroot animals are just like, hey, that's my cousin Jeffrey from 4 generations back.
He ate an orc and it upset his tummy, and now he's a Kroot ox.
Well, his uncle. Uncle, my uncle ate an orc, and this is what popped out later on. Anyway, so we should start with the basics of the Eldari, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. So, you know what that means? Yeah. Everyone's favorite topic, the war in heaven.
Woo!
It happened. It certainly happened. I don't even think we need an episode on it at this point. We have one, but we don't need one anymore. In the beginning, there was the war in heaven. It happened. It certainly did. Shit got whack. Eldar were created. Eldar and their gods fought the Catan, along with the old ones, the Quarks, and the Jakaros. I'm going to mention them. Needless to say, the Necrons and the old ones were defeated by insects for some reason, which is kind of a cop-out in my opinion. Like, the more I think about it, that insect plague is kind of just like
it's not insects.
Middle finger.
It's not insects. It's the enslavers.
Yeah, psychoactive bug creature things.
You don't get. You may be mixing them up with the Psychonoin, which are absolutely insects.
Yes, but they're both just really, really silly. It should have just been mutual assured destruction. But anywho, the Eldar went and started colonizing the entire galaxy after the War in Heaven. I am skipping the War in Heaven. The War in Heaven happens, big explosions, looks like a Michael Bay movie, and something transforms into another thing. In this case, the Necrons, or the Necron tier into the Necrons.
And they all went to sleep.
And they all went to sleep and lived happily ever after. No, but when the Eldar started controlling most of the galaxy and moving out and starting to conquer different planets and everything, a group of Eldari were like, hey guys, don't you think you're kind of getting way too into this hedonism thing? This is very bad. And they broke off and became the Exodites. They exiled themselves to become the Exodites. What a terrific name. I bet an Icelandic person came up with that. By the way, this is the same country that has a mountain by the name of The Mountain, and then has a mountain next to it called The Other Mountain. I'm not kidding. That's the direct translation. Also, Other Lake is one of the most popular lake names here in Iceland. So there is The Lake, and all of the other ones are Other Lake. But anyway, this group somehow developed a world. How to put this? They made a world spirit stone type construct, an infinity circuit,
Yeah, it's
but
closer to an infinity circuit.
within the world itself. And these Eldar owe their entire lives and they live a very hard and rugged life. And they choose to live like this. That's one of the big things about them is while they are living in mud huts and scrounging around for food and they look like they're starving sometimes, they're choosing to do that. They know all the Eldari advanced technology. They just choose not to use some of it. They use a lot of it, though. Don't get me wrong. They use a lot. Like Titans. They have Titans. A lot of them. Which is kind of weird.
Knights. They have a lot of knights, actually. That's what they have.
Yeah. I don't think they don't pilot the Phantom Titan. Sorry, that's my mistake. They have Knights, not Titans.
Well, they may have Titans. I mean, I'm not. Let me be really clear. We don't know for sure if they do or do not have Titans. I'm going to assume that they probably do, but they are famous for their knights, which are like not the dragon riding knights with the lances, but actual like imperial knight sized knights. And we will talk about these guys because they're really interesting and exciting.
All right, I'm going to turn up my mic because I see that chat is saying something about it. The reason I keep my mic low is because Victor is DMing a game in the other room. Because we live in a nerdy household, damn it.
So let's see here. The Eldari were a civilization that spanned most of the galaxy. They had incredibly high technology. They were all very had a lot of great psychic potential within them. They feel emotions a little more strongly than people do, and that is represented in the warp. It makes their souls very bright, if you will. They inherited the webway from the old ones, which is the webway is a series of tubes, a labyrinthine dimension that exists between reality and the warp. It goes through the warp, and it allows the Eldari to travel across great distances in very short periods of time.
My favorite way that the webway was described is that it's the veins between reality and unreality. And I love that description.
And the webway there's basically portals to the webway on just about every Eldari spaceship, every craft world, and every planet that they settle on. So the webway is how the Eldari get around throughout the galaxy, typically. There's an entire faction of the Eldari, the Drukhari or the Dark Eldar, who live inside the webway. There's also the Harlequins who live inside the webway. So that's two factions that basically live inside the webway. The other factions are the Craftworlders, also called the Asuryani, and the Exodites. And both of them are, they use the webway, but they're not necessarily living inside of it.
Then we got the Corsairs, who risk everything.
Oh, God, Corsairs are so cool. We have a whole episode on them, but I'm reading Voidsguard right now.
It's so good, right?
It's a good book, and I really love the way that the Corsair Prince explains why the Corsair life appeals to both Asuryani and Drukhari, because both civilizations are stifling just in different ways. And there are Eldari who are like, man, I don't want to live my whole life responsible for my entire species, which is the Craftworlders, and they have to constantly keep themselves under control. Even though the goal is admirable, it just, people want to do things. They want to do things just for the joy of it, and that's just not something you get to do on the Craftworlds. And then in Cormorag, everywhere you turn, there's a knife poised to cut you down, and you're being judged every second of every day to see where your loyalties lie. And there's there's Cormorites who are like, you know what, I don't mind all the killing and torture, but I wish I had some time for me, where I didn't have to worry about a knife in the back.
You just described high school as a woman, or a girl in this case.
Probably.
Did you get to the part where they're eating food?
No, not yet.
Oh my God. When you get there, you'll know it, and you'll just be like, this is the best thing I've read about Eldar ever.
Super chat from Colby Carry On. Hey, good to see you. I'm not sure we've seen you here before, so welcome. With the release yesterday, do you believe we have a higher chance of seeing the Exodites as a full faction in Total War 40k, like Grand Cathay was for Fantasy? Oh. Yes, we have a higher chance. Absolutely, we now have a higher chance.
Yeah, I would say that we have a higher chance, but it's going to take them like 6 years to put it into the game.
it will take time for sure. But it is far more possible than it was before yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Wow, so exciting! God, this is cool. So cool. All right, so the Exodites. Go ahead.
I'm still blown away by them. I'm still blown away by dinosaur riding elves. We were joking about this like 3 weeks ago, and then here it is. And we're just like, okay, well, maybe we need to talk about other things in Warhammer that needs full armies.
So the Exodites, they are a distinct branch of the Eldar species. They are ancient prescient survivors of the fall of the Eldar when they saw the rot in their empire's heart long before the fall, and they chose exile over extinction. They are closely related to the Asuryani. They are very similar in a lot of ways, and in fact, their visual language of the new kill team is very craft worldy, I should add. But while the Craftworlders decided to flee the fall aboard their world ships, and the Drukhari descended into depravity in the dark city of Cormorag, and the Harlequins hid out in the webway, the Exodites, they basically, I don't want to say they're Luddites, but they do tend to represent a more lower tech approach than most.
Yeah.
Which again, this may be a case of some of that really old lore saying that they abandoned advanced technology, but we know they didn't. And it may be a case of the fact that just people can't necessarily that they may have all the great tech and it's just in a different shape or form that we don't recognize necessarily. So I'm going to say that they seem like a back to nature Luddite group, but they are probably not, in fact, that.
They kind of
Go ahead.
They kind of have a questing knight aesthetic right now.
Well, certainly with the kill team they do, yeah.
Yeah.
And Knights has been a part of their culture for a long time, all the way back to 1990.
1990?
Yes, 1990. So the Exodites,
I'm sorry.
they settled on the terraformed worlds from the Eldari Dominion or the Eldari Empire. These are called maiden worlds. They are beautiful. Typically, they're lush, verdant, just teeming with life. Typically, places that the Eldari have terraformed for their own. This is where we intend to settle. And the Exodites settled on many of these worlds. The Corsairs also tend to protect maiden worlds, as do the Asuryani. Typically, Drukhari don't give a crap.
Yeah. Drukhari have to be paid to care about it.
The Exodites, they bonded these worlds with planetary psychic networks, the world spirit, which is very, very similar to a Craftworld's infinity circuit, in that it is made out of wraithbone, it is part of their world, and it is where they attach the spirit stones of those who have been slain so that their souls can mingle with the others within the halls of the infinity circuit. So, Alexis, what are spirit stones and why do Eldari need them?
Okay, so spirit stones are magical rocks that don't boil water. We know that. That's a joke at magic rocks that boil water here on Earth. Anyway, what these magic rocks do is at the time of death, they suck in the Eldar's soul itself, protecting the Eldar from death, essentially. These can then be used to power their wraith constructs, their vehicle walkers, gargantuan towering knights and titans. They can be used as power sources for those. They could be used to be infused with weapons of all sorts and power those as well. They can also be connected to the infinity circuit, and thus the soul goes into the infinity circuit itself, where it can stay safely until something obliterates it.
And they need these spirit stones because the chaos god they gooned into existence, Slaanesh, hungers for Eldari souls above all others. And
Yep.
the Eldari, the remnants of their once great empire, most of them are concerned with protecting their souls from Slaanesh. The Corsairs being one of the few ones who are more like, if it happens, it happens, YOLO.
Now, there is conflicting things that say that soul stones can be made, but most of them they have to be found on things called what
Crone
are those
worlds
crone worlds, which are worlds that are so close to the Eye of Terror or rifts in
within.
reality, and within, yeah, uh, they're entirely corrupted by chaos, and to go there is the greatest risk to an Eldar. And typically, they hire rogue traders to do it.
Or mercenaries, or yeah,
Yep.
but they do. Sometimes they just have to go, and they will go do
Yep.
it.
And they need to collect these crystals in order to, well, they collect the raw material to make the crystals out of, and then they equip them to all of their Eldari. The Exodites use these crystals as well, but it appears that they shatter them. I
Well,
think I've read.
I don't know about that. Quick question from Parker Meistera says, "What did the Eldar use before Spirit Stones to power their stuff?" Spirit Stones as a power source is very old lore. It does crop up with the Exodites, interestingly enough. It is generally assumed that they have plasma sources or other power generators. They don't. The Spirit Stones are more about securing your soul than powering up anything. Just so
Okay.
you're aware.
This comes from second edition.
That's what I said. It's really old lore.
Huge grain of salt with this one. But apparently, in order for the Exodites spirit stones, they shatter their stones on the altar so that that soul can enter the world singer, the world spirit. That is incredibly old lore. Just mind you. Keep
Yeah,
that in mind.
we've tried to warn you guys.
Because as it currently stands, the Eldar can't make any more, and they desperately try to collect them, even to the point of getting humans to get them for them. That's how desperate they are for them.
Right. We got a lot of comments here. I wanted to try to go through them. We got one from Leader 2457. Good to see you. I always saw it in a way that they live lower tech and simpler lives by Eldar standards and not by human standards.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes from the fact that they live on maiden worlds and they incorporate the natural features of their worlds into their architecture, their technology, their mindset. The Eldari of the Dominion, the original empire, were incredibly technologically advanced. They had crazy technology. The Eldari still have crazy technology compared to everybody else. They are very high technology civilization. So it may just be aesthetics. It may just be that the Exodites are like, no, we have all this tech. We've just reworked it into trees and charms
Well,
and things like that.
do
It
you
kind
want to
of
hear
this.
something?
Go ahead.
Do you want to hear something funny? The Exodites, unlike the Eldar, choose not to use elevators and instead walk all the way up their towers. This is actual lore, by the way. That is them describing their hardships.
First world problems. Am I right?
I gotta walk up this tower. I choose to do this because I'm an Exodite. Ugh.
It is my fate. Michael Texiera says pretty much Amish Eldar. The best way to think about the Exodites, if the craft world is, if the Asuryani are space Amish, which they absolutely are, then the Exodites are dinosaur riding ultra orthodox space Amish. they are the most Amish. I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Although what is cool is that they switched from having the Japanese aesthetic to having more of a, this is the older models, mind you, to having a more knightly aesthetic. And then the newer models came out and they switched it back to having more of a Japanese look to them. And I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Ricardo Andre asks, sometimes soul stones are basically the crystallized remains of the Crone world's population's own souls or remnants of the souls, in my understanding.
Yes.
And probably. We know that they're called Isha's Tears.
Yeah.
And it's not entirely clear. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, the whole thing comes from a legend of Isha trying to protect the Eldar.
Yeah.
And in doing so, made it so that they can barely have kids, but their soul is protected. Isha stepped in with that as it's very weird.
Wolf Boy, good to see you, Wolf Boy. He says, aren't the Crone worlds said to be the original homeworld of the Eldar? The Crone worlds are the worlds that were the heart of the ancient Eldar Empire before the fall of the Eldar. When the fall of the Eldar occurred and Slaanesh was born, it created the Eye of Terror, and the Eye of Terror sucked all those worlds into its space, which is reality overlapped with the warp. So those worlds all became incredibly corrupted by chaos and rampaged by demons, and that's why they're called Crone worlds. The Crone worlds, in a way, are the original homeworlds of the Eldar, in that they are the heart of their former empire. But homeworld in this case is doing a lot of lifting as a word. So I just want to be really clear. It's like basically, but not entirely true.
I'm sure one of them was the homeworld.
We don't know exactly which one was their original homeworld. Yeah. Devin Urbina, good. This is a good point here. He says we've got Maiden Worlds, Lilith, and Crone Worlds, Morai Hag. What about Mother Worlds, Isha? Good point. We don't have Isha Worlds because she's captured by Nurgle.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, do you want to read this one?
Biofoot is in here with $2 donation. Thank you so much. Is it true that the Exodites are Fishman allies? Honestly, probably. Like, they probably have some type of fishman that lives alongside them, because in earlier lore, again, all of this is earlier lore, they did ally and live very comfortably with humans on their world.
Yes.
Until Vulcan came and stepped on a child.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. We will discuss that. But by the way, I did find the source of that. That is from a novella called Promethean Sun, which I believe you told me about. Yeah. In the novella Promethean Sun from the Horus Heresy, basically the Salamanders and the Death Guard end up fighting some Eldari Exodites. Sorry, the Iron Hands, not the Death Guard. And Vulcan kills a bunch of them.
Yeah, he incinerates them.
The planet was cleansed. It was cleansed, quote unquote,
in fire.
In fire, yes. It's not a good day for Vulcan. Let's put it that way. But anyway, the Exodites, they were part of the Horus Heresy, at least a little bit.
Probably a great day for Vulcan. Terrible day for the Exodites.
Yeah, that's true.
To you, it was the worst day that you've ever had in your entire life. To me, it was Tuesday.
So to say that the Exodites are dinosaur riding space Amish it is a shorthand, but it does undersell the ancient wisdom of the Exodites and their ferocity in war. Now, prior to this reveal yesterday, it was generally assumed that the Exodites fought mostly defensive wars, that they were like, we're going to stay on our world, and if you don't start, none won't be one. Won't need none, right? And the reveal yesterday, one of the commentators, I think it was Eddie, let slip that there is a war coming for the Exodites, which strongly implies that they're going to be, and the fact that they have models coming out and and they're going to be in the Codex. So this all strongly suggests to me that the Exodites are going to start playing a far more active role in wars and conflicts throughout the galaxy.
I also just want to say I love that the Eldar are getting all of this. I want to play against more elves. I am so sick of going to the club and playing against Necrons, Adeptus Mechanicus, Custodes, and Space Marines. I want more elves to fight. Give me elves to murder.
Hey, for today's topic, I am wearing a t-shirt for an entirely different group of space elves. That would be the Romulan Star Empire of Star Trek. All right, let's see. We got a super chat from Leader2457. He says, I am surprised how dense this set is. 3 characters or a troop choice give us a big dino with a weapons platform. Sorry, 3 characters or a troop choice give us a big dino with a weapons platform and a basic troop, and we have an army. That's true. They need more units to form a full faction, and we're going to talk about that.
Yes, because there is a full faction in Warhammer that is not played as a full faction, unfortunately, because it's Arbites. I'm just going to stop trying to beat around the bush. It's Arbites. Arbites have enough units to play as an army, but they can't because they're bad. I keep trying. I've tried all through 10th edition. I'm trying in 11th edition.
Gary Garrionson, do Infinity Circuits have a distinct personality? We're not sure. We don't know a lot about the Infinity Circuits. Or a consensual one formed from the souls, a hive mind. Can the Eldar unite through psychic means? To an extent, they can. It is known that Eldari typically are psychically sensitive. They have a lot of psychic potential throughout their people. And we know that, for example, there are Gestalt personalities formed in things like Titans from all the previous princeps who have been involved with the Titan. Same is true for Imperial Knights, all the people who've been bonded to the Throne Mechanicum. Their personalities seem to remain as an echo. We know that Eldar twins, who pilot a certain type of Eldari Titan, the Phantom Titan, is that right?
I believe it's the Phantom.
They have a deep, strong bond that they can sometimes have a tiny little hive mind, if you will, that they can act as one. And it is heavily implied that Iniad, the newly born, or starting to awaken, I should say, Eldari god of the dead, is essentially a gestalt of all the dead souls in the Infinity Circuits. So kind of, somewhat, yes, but not exactly the way you're saying it. And I want to, it's one of those circumstances where we just don't know a lot about the Infinity Circuit. We don't know what it's like to exist within one.
Yeah.
And
Ross, I do. I played on the Xbox 360. I've played through Call of Duty lobbies. It's that.
It's a Call of Duty lobby. Oh,
that is
horrible.
Obviously a joke.
That's horrible. But yeah, it's really interesting, the Infinity Circuits. I want to know more. Maybe we will learn more about the Exodites world circuits. Almost certainly we will. The World Spirit. Learn more about it.
Ross, can you take over for 1 second? I just have to run to the bathroom.
Sure thing. It's a very exciting topic today, everybody. I am hyped AF to talk about Exodites. So why are we talking about Exodites today? Because in case you don't know, Friday they had the big Games Workshop summer preview, and the Exodites received their first ever official plastic miniatures in a Kill Team box, which ends more than 30 years as a lore-only faction. They had been a faction in the lore. I mean, unless you played Epic, and even then they weren't really around that long. So, Ivani DK, hey Ivani, good to see you. Wasn't that one of the theories that once the last Eldar died, as long as enough of their souls had avoided Slaanesh, their god of the dead would be born from their collected souls? So the birth of Iniad is prophesied to lead to the defeat of Slaanesh. And the Yanari, which is the group that has formed around this new god, Iniad, and his high priestess, Ivrain, they believe that they want to help Iniad emerge as a full god in order to become the savior of the Eldari species and destroy Slaanesh and allow their civilization a chance to resume on the galactic stage. So that's what's going on with that. All right. So 10,000 years before the present day. Hey, Alexis.
Hello.
10,000 years before the present day. This is approximately the M30. So right a few hundred years before the Great Crusade. The Eldari Empire was at the height of its power. It was a civilization that had mastered technology and tamed the webway, bent reality to its own will, freed from any kind of necessary work by automation and technology and psychic powers. The Eldari, they turned to ever more exotic pursuits. They wanted to form pleasure cults, and they descended into hedonism and esoteric excess, and that's about as detailed as I want to get. And this all slowly corrupted the psychic fabric of their society. Okay. As the society began to collapse, there were people who started to split off from what they saw happening. Some of them were called doomsayers. Some of them were veteran soldiers of previous conflicts. Some of them were just possessed of prophetic visions of the future, because that is definitely a thing Eldari do.
Some threw their hands up and just disappeared into bushes.
they began to criticize the pleasure cults. They began to openly warn people that what's happening is going to lead to catastrophe. And they were largely mocked, largely ignored, dismissed, minimalized, marginalized. They were called narrow-minded people, obsessed with misery and self-denial by all these pleasure cults. But
They were correct.
Their alarm was very well founded. So those who heeded this warning began to exile themselves as part of what became known as the Exodus of the Eldar. It was a series of mass migrations that led these dissenters away from Eldari society, and I mean all levels of society, from the top to the bottom. And they were united. They were united by their determination to survive whatever was coming. According to legend, some of these original fleets that launched, they became the Exodites. They were pioneering fleets made up of an assortment of spacecraft, including some early craft worlds, trading ships, colony vessels, fitted with habitats and domes. The domes on the craft worlds are a very common way to have habitats aboard Eldari ships.
Isn't this also when the Harlequins split off?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I know that the Harlequins split off at some point and they became their own thing, but we don't know when.
They also took with them all the materials they would need to create more webway portals and things like that. So because they took part in the Exodus, they called themselves the Exodites. And they fled to the worlds known as Liliathan, or the Maiden Worlds.
That way, no one will find them on the most beautiful planets.
Well, the Maiden Worlds were terraformed as potential colonies for the Empire. So they were on the fringe. They were on the outer rim of the Eldari Dominion.
Yep.
And so these were...
I do want to just add one quick thing here. This is also why the Great Crusade didn't really encounter too many of them.
Right, because they were very far away.
Outer rim.
Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. It was rare. It was actually not that common to find Eldar during the Great Crusade because it was right after the fall.
Well, yeah, almost all of them were exploded and eaten.
All right, so it's my turn. I'm going to let you take over for a little bit, and I will be right back.
Oh, no. Okay, so here I am. Look at that. I'm amazing. Anyway. So the Eldari became split into a bunch of different groups. And there was one group that I really want to mention, but we don't know anything about them. And it's the Crone Worlders. It's the Eldar that still live on the Crone Worlds, but they're very, 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 very rarely, extremely rarely mentioned. I think there's like 2 mentions of them in all of 40k's history. But that's it. I don't really want to talk about them too much. It's just there's cool demon elves somewhere. We also know that the Drukhari went into the warp at this point, into the webway, sorry. And the Eldari that were on the very edge of the galaxy, those are the ones that survived when Slaanesh was actually born. The birth scream of Slaanesh tore across the entire galaxy, consuming almost all of the warp storms in the galaxy, compressing them, and in doing that, ripped out all the Eldari souls, leaving just a whole bunch of dead Eldar everywhere, which probably was super awkward for the Great Crusade to come into. But this was hundreds of years before, so their bodies probably kind of rotted away, or Eldari could have just set off to try to collect their bodies. We don't know what happened there. That's just my speculation. I assume that one craft world just flew around and just started collecting bodies, or the bodies just simply rotted away. But the dudes that split off, they're the ones that survived, for the most part, the Great Scream of the birth of Slaanesh. And it's only because they made it all the way to the edge of the galaxy. And after Slaanesh was born, the Great Crusade pretty much happened just a few hundred years later. Now, Ross, you are here. There you are.
I'm back.
What do you think happened to all the bodies of the Eldar? Do you think the Imperium just ran into them and just chucked them into space? Or do you think their bodies just decomposed so badly they just never found them?
I'm sorry, which Eldar are we talking about?
Just the Eldar that got killed in the birth of Slaanesh.
Those Eldar are in the Eye of Terror, and the Imperium never went there.
Well, no, I mean the other ones that happened that were next to like warp storms and things like that when they were being consumed, because
Uh,
the survivors were the ones on the outskirts.
right. Well, so the birth of Slanesh was absolutely apocalyptic, and
Yeah,
the Eye of Terror being ripped open as a whole reality. It's we described it. We have a whole episode on it. We talked about how big it is. It's thousands of light years across.
yeah.
That's the heart of that empire. Um, and again, the Imperials in the Great Crusade, they never went there, so it's unlikely that they found mass graves of Eldar anywhere. Um,
Well, like I'm just wondering if there was just like after the birth of Slanesh, after like 100 years or so, like you just have one guy just like flying around his craft world, just collecting all the bodies.
maybe. Oh, I need to correct myself. There was a group that went to the Eye of Terror during the Great Crusade. It was the Wordbearers on their
Oh, yeah.
pilgrimage. I forget myself. There is one small group that did, in fact, go to the Eye of Terror. So the Wordbearers would be the ones you'd have to ask about what they did with the Eldari bodies, although they probably had other priorities on their mind.
They also probably did some horrendous things that we can't talk about on this live stream.
We'd get demonetized.
Yep. So Slanesh is born at this point. The Imperium starts taking. Well, the Imperium doesn't take over the galaxy. The what is it? The Golden Age technology is happening, and the Imperium is all separated and everything. And the Great Crusade is now going off after the gold. Sorry, I meant to say after the Golden Age technology.
Yeah,
The
no,
Imperium is.
that's not right. Suffice to say, the Grand Crusade kicks off. Let's just
Yeah.
you're in the wrong era of history when you talk about Golden Age, so that's different. But
Well, the Golden Age happens before the birth of Slanesh.
right, but it's
Yeah,
not really
and then
relevant.
It ends, and then the Great Crusade happens, and
No.
then he's going around.
There's this really important thing called the Age of Strife that happens in between.
The Age of Strife isn't that important.
The Age of Strife is vastly important.
Nonsense.
All right, so
I'm joking.
The thing about this is the Exodites, not all the Exodus fleets reach safety. It's important to know from the fall of the Eldar. Many colonies failed. Some ships were lost in space. Some fleets were destroyed by orcs or other inimical groups, including salamanders and Iron Hands during the Great Crusade. The Exodites became embroiled in wars with groups that were already there on the Maiden Worlds, like some humans, which again leads us back to the salamanders and the Iron Hands. But the ones who did survive and thrived, they established themselves in well-insulated groups so that within a century of their migrations, they were fully insulated from the fall of the Eldar. The Exodites are the ones that fully made it out. Unlike the Craft Worlders, unlike the Cormor, unlike the Chikari, who both, some of them did not escape. The Exodites did. They got all the way out there from the fall. They were remote, both in terms of distance and also in mindset, because the burst scream of the Slanesh destroyed all the Eldari souls, the Eldari gods, en masse across the galaxy. It was a lot of worlds that died. The physical and psychic distance, though, of the Exodite worlds, the Maiden worlds, combined with the rigorous asceticism, which the Exodites are described as rigorously ascetic. So there you go. This shielded them from the worst of the cataclysm. There is a old Craft World prophecy that says the Exodites alone would survive Slanesh's endless night, which is a reference to this thing, and may have had its roots in the Exodites who foresaw what was going to happen and were like, "We're out. We got to go.
Nope, we're leaving.
Fuck this shit. I'm out."
Yeah.
So, where should we go next? Did we talk about the clans?
Oh God, there's so much to talk about.
The Dragon Lords.
There's also the weird like pseudo Bretonian lore they have.
It's a little bit that, yeah.
I think we should talk about the inspiration before we move into them. Like what inspired the Exodites lore. And I can't help but just point directly to their lizard men in space.
Wood Elves
in space.
It's Wood Elf and Seraphon are I would say the biggest influences, but
yeah.
Please go on.
And then you have the Bretonian knights, or just knights in general, knight households owing loyalty to one household over another. And this household stuff is thrown around 40k's lore quite a bit, especially at around this time, because this is also around the same time that Necromunda was being written, and they had their houses and their gangs, and then you had the Exodites and their houses and their knights. They had squires. It's kind of like a mismatch. And in earlier Warhammer 40k, before it really got its identity, GW was throwing all of their fantasy armies into 40k to see if it would work. Space elves were the original names of the Eldari. And then you had space orcs, which were orcs in space. So for them to take some of their other factions and just be like, yeah, we could do this. Tomb Kings in space. What do we call them? Necrons, because they're robots. Yeah.
Somebody asked the question, what if Eldar were frontier nobility, herding dinosaurs, worshiping the land, and fighting with knightly codes instead of living in crystal starships?
Yeah. One person had an imagination.
A man had a dream.
But it's that's where I think the inspiration for the Exodites came from. But with the sales of fantasy, maybe that had an impact, but this is all theory. And Lizardmen just, well, Eldar sales in general were never going to match Space Marines at all. Like, I think one tactical squad outsold all of everything else in Warhammer 40k, as well as fantasy. So in the older way of Games Workshop's business motto, pre 8th edition, it was, does it sell? Yes, it gets models. Now we have the new guy in charge, and he's just like, hey, do you remember that thing that you liked from like 40 years ago? How do we keep fans? Oh, we hit them with nostalgia.
Yeah,
Wait.
you're talking about Kevin Roundtree, who's the
Yeah.
guy who took over from Tom Kirby about 16 years ago-ish.
Wait.
And he's the one who threw open the vaults, and that's why we have Gene Stealer cults and Scutari and stuff like that, because they were never on the roadmap before he took over.
It's also why we got Arbites back. It's why we got Inquisition as a playable faction. It, like, he's just been like, I know all of our older fans will enjoy this, so let's make it. And I really appreciate that, especially like newer fans not knowing the lore at all and just seeing dinosaur elves are probably like, hey, that's pretty neat. Us older fans are just like, yes.
Well, it's been 30 years, and they were a faction in lore only for so long. So the Exodites, once they got to their maiden worlds and settled down and survived the fall, they organized themselves into extended family clans, each one led by a hereditary warrior elite with no formal emphasis on gendered descent. So you could have a king, you'd have a queen, nobody cared. You could have a lord, you could have a lady, nobody cared. By the time they got to the second generation of settling these worlds, there was a network of noble houses that had already emerged amongst the Exodite clans. And these houses were part of let me rephrase. The clans owed allegiance to the royal house, the king of that world, that maiden world. And in turn, each of the clans has their own clan chieftain, who is the guardian. Well, the ruler of the world, the planetary king. He's the one who is the guardian of the world spirit. He is the royal liege. And a lot of this is going to sound like Night Worlds, because the Exodites and Imperial Knights were actually introduced in like the same White Dwarf issue. So there's a lot of connection to these things.
Let me see if I can find that exact White Dwarf that they were introduced in. Continue.
The noble houses of the warrior elites started to call themselves Eldar Knights. And according to some older lore, this is called Exodine Nova in their language, naming their houses after the ancient bestial dangers of Eldari legend: the Sable Claw, the Sea Titan, the Sea Talon, the Swiftcorn. These noble families control the planet's limited supply of pre-fall war machines, which includes enormous 30-foot tall single pilot walkers whose spirit stones house the personalities of long dead heroes, the Eldari Knights. And we're going to get into that very, very soon. Pilots of these machines are forever changed by the experience of bonding with it. They exchange a portion of their consciousness with the machine and are known thereafter to speak in archaic tongues and refer to past ages with unnerving familiarity. They have squires, which are junior warriors who serve in a knight's retinue and earn their status through proven deeds in battle. And this all used to be organized very like each clan had like here's what a knight drives, here's what a lord drives, here's what a squire drives. The king, the planetary king, the Exodite king, he has a retinue which includes all of his advisors, his successors, royal warlocks who serve as spiritual counselors and judges. And whenever blood is shed between the clans, a royal warlock may be sent to mete out the judgment of the king. Hey,
we do have a super chat here.
Should Exodites have a greater birthright in birthright? I see what I did there. Birthright in lore, since they are not maidenless. Okay, that's an Elden Ring joke. I get it. I recognize that reference, as Steve Rogers would say.
Oh, and I also found the White Dwarf. It is White Dwarf 126, which came out in 1990.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. It's 36 years old this year.
Shush with those numbers.
I am. What even is time?
Exactly.
So that is how the clan structure works, as far as we know. Again, old lore. Then there's how do the Exodites view the Asuryani paths, Alexis?
As far as I could find, they don't mind them, but they try to stray away from anything that would push them in one favor or the other. They try to stay away from following those paths because they don't want to be associated with Cain.
Well, it's actually more about Assyrian.
Yeah.
The Exodites see the path system as something established by Assyrian, and they reject that. They are like, no. They believe that the structured spiritual discipline followed by the craft worlders is an illusion of control. It is something that just masks the inner darkness that they already know exists within their people, rather than genuinely purging it. So you can think of the craft worlders as space elves, and the Exodites is more Vulcanish, honestly, which is another reason I wear the shirt today, in that they have decided to embrace a form of asceticism through physical hardship. What do I mean by this? They prefer to get their food through hunting and farming and fishing rather than from automation, rather than that they are rejecting the trappings of a high-tech society, even though they have the technology. Okay.
They're so manly men. They go outside and they shoot their own animal to eat it raw.
It's a little bit libertarian. Yeah, it definitely has that feeling to it.
It's hilarious.
They want to struggle against a dangerous environment and master it through their own skill rather than just have a machine do it for them. They purge the excesses of their emotion through their physical exertions, through their bond with the land. If that makes sense. So they are both more disciplined than the craft world, but less structured than the craft world, if that makes sense. This is not some form of primitive ignorance on their part, though. The Exodites retain all the knowledge and technology of their race. They just choose not to use it in the way that the other Eldari do. And like you said, they climb stairs rather than use a lift.
It is so funny that that's in their lore.
I know. It is great.
As part of their hardship, they go upstairs.
They decided not to use Falcon grav tanks. They decided to tame the dinosaurs of their world and turn them into living war machines that they could bond with and train. And they see a value. I mean, let me use a dated video game reference. They choose to embrace the feeling of And what did EA say about Star Wars Battlefront? The sense of pride and accomplishment. They said they choose to revel in the pride and accomplishment of doing their work physically rather than having machines do it for them. And the rigor of this life is credited. That's what they credit with saving them. That is that they are expressing their emotions through action rather than through discipline, I guess is a better way
Ross,
to put it.
the funniest part of this whole thing is, yes, this is what saved us. That and being, really, really, really far away from a death explosion.
Yeah, Ricardo Andre. It is a reference to the 10 years of grinding in Battlefield 2 for Vader. Yeah, that's that reference. So within each clan, the emotional intensity of Eldari nature is expressed as fierce loyalty and collective shared labor. This is the Amish part, right? We're going to have a barn raising, and they get everybody together and they raise a barn. That's how the Amish do it. Well, the Exodites are very similar. They do collective labor as a people to share their emotions with each other, to express their
Oh my God, they're
boiling
socialists.
feelings. They very much are. They're basically a commune, if you think of it.
Yeah,
that way.
they kind of are communist. I'm okay with that.
Again, no judgment. I think it's fine. I think it's great. The younger members of the Exodite species are the younger people of the Exodite people. They're the ones who basically act out the most, and they're the ones who become the warriors and the dragon riders, and they're the ones who have embraced this idea of honor and everything even more strongly than their elders, because it is a way for them to prove themselves within their communities.
Squire, suppress your excitement. We are going out on a hunt.
It is also one of the ways, as a young Exodite, it is one of the ways you can create a legend of your own, is to go out there and fight honor duels and accumulate experience amongst the rigors of their world. Are they excessive in their honors, as Wesley's? Depends on what source. Depends on the source.
Squire, have honor, but not too much honor. Lose a couple of fights every now and then, Squire.
Depends on the clan. Some clans treat it far more seriously than others, but they all have a certain sense of it. Let's put it that way. And then there's the fact that Exodites are nomadic. Alexis, you want to talk about this?
Okay, so each and every single one of the maiden worlds is connected via tubes. The webway. And even if Exodites go to war with other Exodites, one of the cool things is that they don't burn each other's crops, which I don't know why this is in their lore. They did not need this. They could have just said they don't destroy their land. But they specifically point out their crops. So these Eldar grow food, which is really cool, and I want to try it. But instead of being hard built into one specific location, they tend to either travel around their world to different locations, planting seeds as they go, so that way when they come back there at the next point in their adventure, they can gather the food that they grew. This also allows them to migrate with the animals of their world, but sometimes they migrate through the webway itself. Now, I can only imagine that Kigoroth every now and then just puts them in the wrong tube, and that's just hilarious.
Well, they don't they don't travel the webway on their world. They use the webway to travel off their world.
Yeah, but sometimes it's to other worlds that are also owned by Exodites.
Well,
controlled by Exodites.
That's true, but they typically are nomadic on their own planet. Let's be really clear about that. And I really should say semi-nomadic, because they move with the seasons. They follow the migrating herds, typically of dragons, or at least dragon-like creatures, which we have seen some with the new release.
Yep.
And their seasonal camps are said to consist of woven pavilions and dyed fur tents and lean-tos. It's all very at one with the land,
it's
half
almost,
Native American, half
it's
Mongol.
Almost like Celtic / knights.
Yeah. That's a good way to think of it. They do have permanent cities. This is not to say they don't. They have permanent cities. And these often serve as... No, they do. They straight up do. But the permanent cities on their worlds are pretty much like, this is the spaceport. This is like the seat of government. This is where we have our most important node for the world spirit. And even they, which are both a spiritual center and an agricultural hub, even those cities can be emptied out during the migratory periods. They can leave their city abandoned for months or even years. So they leave, and part of this is so that the crops that they grow can tend to themselves, and their forests can grow wild. Now, when I say tend to themselves and growing wild, it's not that they're just walking away and it all becomes a big mess. It's the fact that the Exodites, they know their planet so well that they can basically kind of pre-plan, okay, the crops are going to go this direction, they're going to grow in this fashion, they're going to grow in this variety. It is, and when the forest is growing wild, it's growing wild in a way that they have decided is correct. Like this, we want to leave this forest fallow for a while so that its roots can be enriched, and then we'll come back later and trim some of the dead wood out of it, and they're very much forest ranger type Eldari.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing I did want to mention is the only reason I said maybe is because all of this lore is subject to change.
We said that at the very beginning.
Yep.
We said that at the very beginning. According to this old lore, though, Exodite cities are laid out like mandalas, which I thought was really neat. The converging streets and rivers and plazas all form this part of this pattern. And the architecture, I should say, of their cities has two principal forms. The Wraithbone Towers, which are these gray spear-like structures with disc-like platforms and exterior staircases, Alexis.
Yep, there it is.
You can actually see this in some of the art of the Jess Goodwin's artwork shows towers like this. And I think they've even had terrain like this in the past. They also use domes. And I talked about the domes earlier. Domes are a very common structure of architecture for Eldari, specifically the Craftworlders and the Exodites.
Now, Ross, I will ask, is it some type of Thunderdome?
No, but it can be Wraithbone. It can be alabaster. It can be quarried stone or even mud-baked bricks. The Exodites are described as not as Wraithbone obsessed as the Craftworlders, which that stands to reason. If you're on a Craftworld, you typically don't have the ability to quarry a lot of stone. And you can draw Wraithbone is drawn from the warp using psychic techniques, so it is always available to the Craftworlders.
The newest lore for it is that it's also grown.
Right, but it's also it comes from the warp. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, some worlds of the Exodites, they retain what are called the Arbor cities. And these are the multi-square mile living structures that were grown using empathic telepathy. And again, very old lore, from thornwood trees or other flora of their world, interspersed with defensive fortifications amidst the roots and canopies. So think of a castle grown out of a tree. That's what they call the Arbor cities.
We call that a treehouse.
Spitfire, can't we just get beyond Thunderdome? Very good.
Good reference.
Very, very good. Yes. You want to talk about the Eldari religion? The Exodite religion.
I did not get into their religion too much. I just know that they try to avoid Cain.
They respect Cain, but they do have a healthy fear of him because he is the god of war and murder. And one of the reasons they decided to get the hell out was to avoid all the war and murder.
Yeah, it turns out war and murder is actually very bad.
The Exodites worship the Eldari pantheon as most Eldari do, except for the Cormorites. They have a particular reverence for Isha, who is the goddess of nature and the harvest.
This is also why we said during our What If episode about Isha, is that Isha would probably return to the Exodites.
Right. If Isha were to return from Nurgle's Palace, she could become a strong force within the Exodites. So, according to the lore, Exodites do not take pleasure in killing and specifically guard themselves against Cain's influence, his bloodlust. This is why I said they're kind of like Vulcans.
Yeah.
And they are in the Craftworld language, the runes of the Eldar. The Exodite rune is the rune of the Eldar of history. And in Drukhari texts, they use a rune for the Exodites that has a meaning associated with both Isha and purity.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Isn't that cool? I thought that was
Yeah.
really neat.
Also, the only thing I can think about right now is Squire, control your bloodlust.
So the history of the Exodites, they preserve this through oral traditions, through stories and songs and dance, which is probably where they have a good relationship with the Harlequins, because Harlequins also like to dance.
It turns out a good dance is good.
Now, this obviously the dance reference is definitely a Wood Elf reference, where the war dancers and all those guys live. Anyway, so they have a tradition called spirit singers. These are the ones that keep the history, and they pass it down across their generations. But the most important spiritual figure in an Exodite world is called the World Singer. And the World Singer is a solitary warp shaper psychic, or psyker, I should say, who forms a lifelong bond with the planet's world spirit. And they're capable of, well, they're said to be capable of controlling the beasts like the dragons and controlling the flora and the plants with psychic songs.
It's a druid.
I mean, they're basically druids.
That's a druid.
They tend to live in a sanctum within the capital city that, or well, within near the capital city. Let's put it that way. And they have world singers typically have an honor guard to ensure that their songs remain in choir with the voices of the dead, those who are still within the infinity circuit of the world spirit. So, another connection between the Wood Elves and the Exodites is that the Exodites are said to bear ritual tattoos in honor and reverence of the dead gods of their pantheon. So they have geometric patterns of stripes and loops and whorls upon their faces, their bodies, their hands. It is, some of these tattoos are said to be animated, like they will shift or writhe in if danger is close.
Look, the last thing I want is my tattoos to start moving. That's gonna scare the shit out of me.
I mean, given the content of your tattoos,
yeah, exactly.
So their clothing is usually made from dinosaur leather and homespun cloth and dragon hide.
I'm not gonna lie, that is so metal.
They like to wear tunics with patterned borders and fur-lined capes, hooded robes, wide belts with very impressive charms and bones and other things attached to them. The Craft World Rangers, the ones that you see from a Laytok, they wear these distinctive long coats, and that the long coats are supposed to be derived from Exodite garb, as are the top knot hairstyles that are featured by many of the witches of Cormorant.
GW does love a good top knot.
They do. So I find that really fascinating. Now, why do you think that they make all of their clothing out of leather and hide and scales and things like that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out for a second for me.
Why do you think that all their clothing is handmade from the leather and scales and the things like that?
Oh, because it's harder than just, magicking clothes into existence. I would imagine it would be to make them closer to their beasts of burden, as well as closer to their dinosaurs and dragons that they have.
But it is metal that they decide to make all this because it gives them a sense of pride and accomplishment for all their hard work.
And that's where you made some nice pants there, but don't feel too excited about it.
I think actually they might encourage people to feel really because it's how they purge their inner darkness. Is they're like no, I'm gonna sew the shit out of this hide. I can just imagine next night like poking with his little needle to stitch it up, and he's like, I'm so mad about something.
Squire, you may feel pride in that.
Yeah, because it's work that keeps them busy. Yeah, there is a tradition and a value of effort and individual achievement that is part of. This is why I say they're very libertarian. from the Exodite standpoint. It's a good way to handle that inner darkness. Certainly better than the way the Cormorites did.
Now, here's a question for you, Ross. Do you think that they themselves believe this to be correct? Or do you think that this is correct based on the setting?
It's almost always the lens rather than the voice of God. So I'm going to say it's how they see it rather than how it necessarily is.
Because the way I imagine it is that the craft worlders view them as less civilized, thus less disciplined.
Oh, everybody looks at the Exodites as backwards, rim dwelling weirdos. I think it's probably safe to say all the Eldari are like, oh, those guys, yeah. Maybe the Harlequins, maybe not. Maybe the Harlequins seem like the one guys who are like, actually, they're kind of neat. Have you seen them dance? They're pretty.
Have you partied with them?
Right? Oh, I imagine. Oh, I bet the parties on Exodite Worlds are insane.
Yeah,
absolutely insane because they lack the stolid stoicism of the craft worlders, and they're not just crazy pants murder hobos like the Drakari, and they're not daredevils like the YOLO Corsairs. So yeah, Exodites would party, and it would be the coolest rave you've ever been to, I imagine.
It would be. Also, their relationship with the Corsairs is incredibly good. It's one of the best out of all of the Eldari.
Yeah, the Corsairs appreciate the Exodites mostly because they can go to an Exodite world and get repairs and supplies, and occasionally people join their crew, and the Corsairs are more than happy to defend the Maiden Worlds. Not necessarily as part of any kind of deal, but it's just something that they tend to do. Not all Corsairs are like this, but many are. Just to be clear.
Like if somebody's going to offer you safe harbor with no strings attached, you're going to go to their defense.
So it's worth pointing out that all Exodite worlds are Maiden Worlds, but not all Maiden Worlds have Exodites.
Yeah.
To be clear. The distinction matters because a Maiden World is a key planet that was terraformed by the Eldari Empire with their technology before the fall, and many were never settled. Some of them, particularly the ones that terraforming was incomplete by the time the fall of the Eldar occurred, reverted to more harsher conditions. So some Exodite worlds are far less hospitable than the paradise description may suggest to you. I have described Maiden Worlds as very paradisical. That is typically how they're portrayed, but not all of them are like that. Some of them are far more dark foresty or dark mountainy,
or frozen.
Can't you just let it go, Alexis?
No. Look, all I'm saying is, do you want to build an Exodite?
Do you want to build an Exodite? Build a knight? Yeah. So the worlds that were completed, the Maiden Worlds that were fully terraformed, they are extraordinary. There's, as I said before, landscapes of dusty green hills, prairies, river floodplains, lush valleys, all the New Zealand shots from Lord of the Rings, It is beautiful. The fauna is rich, often dangerous. Most Maiden Worlds have saurians as part of their ecology.
That's dinosaurs and dragons.
Yes. But there's also birds and reptiles, including the thing called the dagger snake, which I think is great. There's insects up to the size of your hand. So in some places, Space Australia. There's amphibians and wild horses and gazelles and porpoises and, a lot. It's just full of stuff. Now, if you can imagine Middle Earth, basically, and add crystal veined terrain throughout it that glows with psychic resonance, that is a settled Exodite Maiden World. That's where, and those veins of crystal, that's the world spirit. Now, often these worlds are geologically young, and that means they are home to geologic activity. That means that they have seismic events, okay? And that still can threaten the Exodite cities and civilizations with quakes and things like that. But the connection between the world spirits and the Exodites means that they usually know when these kinds of events are going to occur, and it's very rarely catastrophic in any events. Because Maiden Worlds are they were not stupid about picking the maiden worlds, and most of the maiden worlds are mostly stable.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Not
So
as stable as me.
some of the example maiden worlds that we know of settled by Exodites include Karnak, and they have a crystal obelisk world shrine. Craftworld Alatok helped them defend against a Necron invasion, which is pretty cool. There's Liliathanir, I believe, and their world shrine is a mountain of living rock with sun crystals called Leth Eldon Imorai, which I think is really cool, which means Holy Mountain of Dawn's light first gleaming.
Yeah, that sounds like a very Icelandic thing. What do we call this sea with what do we call this bay with all of these seals in it? Baby Seal Bay.
Right.
Reykjavik.
There's Sephiroth, whose world shrine is a trap-laden temple. Sounds like something on Indiana Jones.
That is Indiana Jones.
And it's got lizard bone bas reliefs and sculptures and engravings all around it. It's got a 6-ton pendulum hammer and a riddle-locked gate guarding a vast cavern housing the solar gem, which is an artifact of the War in Heaven capable of apotheosis. And I believe that is the one that we see in The Infinite and the Divine.
I think it is too.
Sephiroth.
Also, I'm pretty sure we went to that temple in Baldur's Gate 3.
There's one called Daith, where the world shrine is protected by potent warding rules. There's Ephrailion, where a game trail leads into the Dark Forest where you can find the world shrine. There's Duro, which is a haven for the Eldar pirate Galladhar the Grey, who maintained a military alliance with the local Exodites before his death.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I like it. There's Eothglas, which is a Corsair haven for Ivrain, and the pirate Amharok is the one who lives there. The Equatorial Thaneway was the entry point for Shalaxi Hellbane's invasion of that world. Shalaxi Hellbane, who's that? Alexis.
Shalaxi Hellbane is the great huntress of Slaanesh. In fact, she is if she's coming after you, you are dead. She was essential to the Psychic Awakening story, where Yvraine had to gather the Power Rangers to help defeat her. And at the end of it, they only fought her shadow and barely won. And they lost the Solitaire in doing so. And that fight consisted of Ethereal Stern, Yvraine, a Solitaire, and a bunch of other people I don't remember.
The last maiden world I want to talk about is Erebos. And Erebos is basically Arrakis. It is a desert world. It is one where the terraforming was incomplete. And the Exodites who live there have adapted to the harsh conditions and developed even greater physical hardiness because of it. So there are space Fremen, and they are Exodites. I kind of love that.
I do too. There is a question here that I kind of like.
Oh man. No, sorry. Best I can do say Google it. I'm sorry. I did not come prepared with the galactic map for these.
I mean, the short answer is no, we have no idea where these worlds are, or if they shifted at all with the Great Rift. And the long answer is no, with a whole bunch of O's behind it. Oh man. Let's see. We have the same things in Wales. Yeah, you guys do. That's pretty funny.
So what is the world spirit, Alexis? We've talked about it a few times.
So the world spirit is essentially their infinity circuit. It's where all their souls get pulled to once the Exodites die. The way in which it happens is confusing to me and Ross because it doesn't make too much sense. But as it's written, and this is from 1992, so grain of salt like this big. The way that it happens is when an Eldari Exodite dies, their soul gets sucked into the soul stone. They bring it up to the altar, and then they smash the soul stone, which then pulls the soul into the world spirit itself. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that's probably not what they do anymore. They probably do the same thing as all Eldari, where they plug it in and then reuse that soul stone. And we do have a super chat here. Boop, from Ice Veins.
Hey, Ice Veins, good to see you. He says, I can't stay, unfortunately. I will watch later. Just dropping in some coin for support. Thank you, Ice Veins. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah. Super chats really, really, really do help us out quite a bit. And you guys are awesome for giving them.
I see a comment I want to add. I don't understand it. Ricardo says, have you talked about Dominion Genesis? Hang on. There's a thing called Dominion Genesis. I'm aware of it, but I don't understand the
implications.
Yeah, here, let me share my screen.
Oh, and we have another super chat once you're ready.
It's an Adeptus Mechanicus audiobook, Ricardo Andre. I don't understand the reference or relevance.
Maybe there's something in there about it?
Maybe, but okay. If so, I am unaware. So I'll have to look that up later.
And we got a super chat here from Twitch, which is awesome.
Thank you, Avani DK. He's my fellow Birthright fanatic. He's my brother in spirit. So Avani DK says we have 2 castles on the island I live on here in Denmark. Hey, one is called Nordborg, North Castle, and the other is called Sonderborg, or Southern Castle.
Yep, that sounds about right. Where do you think the Icelandics got it from?
Nice.
You guys.
Nice.
Also, here's a question strictly for you. Are you going to Sletten or Trelleborg this year?
For you?
You will. No, to them.
Oh.
Yeah.
To Avani DK.
Yeah. Because I want to know if they're going to the Viking festivals. Because I'm going to go to that one next year. Alrighty. So where are we? We got the world spirit, which again is kind of confusing. But I'm assuming it works in the same way as an infinity circuit, where it just pulls in the souls and keeps them to be used later. We do know that souls can be pulled from an infinity circuit in case of, like, Eldred has done it. Basically, if something has happened in Eldar lore, it's probably related to Eldred somehow.
Maybe. Ricardo says, I set the Dominion Genesis to your DMs. Okay, I haven't heard the audiobook, but my understanding is it's about the Mechanicus and Tyranids fighting over Forge World, so I still don't see the relevance. If there is something called the Dominion Genesis that's related to not to that audiobook, and you're talking about something completely different, that's fine, but just realize there is an actual book called Dominion Genesis, which I don't think has anything to do with Exodites at all. So
yeah, I was just confused.
It's very confusing. All right. Yep. So moving on. I do want to show some pictures. It's time to show some pictures, don't you think?
I do like pictures. Let's look at pictures.
So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the existing, until yesterday, the only existing Exodite models we knew of, which were the Exodite Knights. And there's more to talk about with the World Spirits. We're going to get into all that, but I have to show these pictures before we get too far down the road.
Alrighty.
So here we go. This is from the pages of White Dwarf. It's heavy metal, and it is all of the old knights from the 1990s. You can see here the Sea Talon Clan Lord, the Sea Talon Clan Squire, the Sable Claw Clan Squire, all of these, including this fun one down here, which looks like a horse. It's one of my favorites. These are the old Exodite Eldari Knights from the epic scale.
And next to them, you can actually see the knights that inspired the newer 40k knights.
Yeah, look at this guy. He's got a tank tread for legs. The House Warwick one.
Yeah, that thing is weird. All of them are weird, but you can see where some of them just flat out gain the inspiration. So it's not out of the question for, Eldari to get a whole bunch of knights.
And then we've got here's an actual Dragon Knight from Epic. Look at that boy. Look at him.
Oh, my gods.
Look at him. He's not that different, though, you can tell where they looked at this and said, hey, let's make this a model for Kill Team.
Yeah, you can see it.
This is a Titan and not a Knight. I want to be really clear. This is a Titan. But it has the old school Eldari visual design language. Look at the helmet for example. See the way it's got the little like almost like a respirator as part of it, and it's got the crazy arching dome behind its head and all that. This is absolutely that type of design language from those days when they were talking about the Eldari Knights.
Do have a super chat here from Wolfboy.
Wolfboy, what is even funnier is when you have two different languages used at the same time saying the exact same thing. For example, the River Avon. Avon being the Welsh word for river.
Yeah, the river.
So the way I've always heard it told is that the peoples of Britain were, the way I've heard it said is that a lot of the names that are like that come from the era of Roman occupation, and the Romans would just be like, "So what's that called?" And they say, "Oh, it's a river." And the Roman writes down, "Avon is the name of the river." All right, and then we've got, this is one of the first illustrations of an Exodite Knight. Look at that thing. Holy moly.
Yeah, you can see the inspiration, though, for the modern day knight, though.
Somewhat. For the Titans, I think you mean.
No, for the knights, the Wraith Knight.
Oh,
specifically.
Is the Wraith Knight a knight or is the Wraith Knight a Titan? Nomenclature. The Wraith Knight, it's a thing.
Yeah, because it has the name Knight in it, and it's not it's not big enough to be a Titan. It's very weird. Because then you have the old lore for Knight Titans, and it's like, well, they're not Titans, they're Knights.
This is not an official model, but it is a kit bash of something that I would expect to see on an Exodite world. He's got the shield, he's got the spear. It's very knightly coded. It's very old technology or one with the land coded. It's colored in Bealtan colors, so kind of dismiss that part of it. But I think this, when I was looking for pictures of Eldar Knights, this came up and I was like, this is not technically a knight, but it sure looks like it should be. And that's why I wanted to bring that up. Now here is the glorious images from the old White Dwarf, which shows us all the color schemes of the clans.
I like the high heels on the Lord.
Yeah, the Lord has high heels. The knight has a centaur body, and the squire has 4 arms. Look at that.
What the hell is happening with this?
It's so wild. I love it.
Yeah.
Look at all these designs for Eldari Knights. There's that one we were looking at earlier, right there, part of the Night Fury clan. Yellow and purple is a bold choice, my friend.
I think it's done pretty well here.
The Swift Horns are all about the green and yellow, so they're basically striking scorpions stands, I think.
Yeah, looks like it.
So I thought this was worth bringing up and pointing out to you guys that these things did exist. They were real. How do we know they were real? Well, they people painted them. Here's a painted set of Eldari Knights from the Epic range.
They did exist.
There's the centaurs in the back up here. You can see them right there. And there's the other reason we know they exist. They were in the catalog and you could order them. They had part numbers and everything.
And they were under 6 pounds a piece.
So you can see the Bright Stallion is what they call the Centaur model. The Fire Gale is the humanoid one. And then the Towering Destroyer is the 4-armed version of these. Those are their official terms.
I want the Centaur Knight so badly. It's so cool.
I do too. I absolutely do too. Okay, so according to Ricardo Andre, the Dominion Genesis book, the audiobook, that's where this Dominion Genesis thing he's talking about comes from. It's called the Terrelia Dondramentia in Eldari language. It's a massive starship used by the ancient Eldari Empire to create maiden worlds. And it's unknown what became of it following the fall of the Eldar. Interesting. Probably a God-given device from Vol, perhaps, possibly. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard the audiobook, but there is an audiobook that talks about the creator of the Maiden Worlds. That's interesting. All right, back to the world spirits. As Alexis very aptly pointed out, this is a version of the Infinity Circuit from the Craft Worlds. But it is arguably the single most important aspect of Exodite civilization, because The world spirit is a psychocrystalline matrix. And I love saying words like that on this show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Woven through the planet's crust, and it manifests above ground in megaliths and menhirs, standing stones, stone circles, crystal obelisks, all the druidic, Stonehenge stuff
Yeah.
is how you access and talk to and touch the world spirit. And it's all connected through a portion of the webway, and it glows with purple light. Now, what the world spirit does is it's a soul repository, just like the infinity circuits on the craft worlds. When an Exodite dies, their body is laid beneath a cairn, and their spirit stone is brought to a subterranean tribal barrow, broken on an altar, like Alexis talked about earlier. They smash the spirit stone on the altar, and the soul flows into the altar, and then is part of the spirit stone, part of the world spirit, preserved forever and safe from Slanesh. So even though they're destroying it on an altar, it is definitely safe.
Well, again, this is their belief that it's completely safe. And it's destroying a spirit stone though.
Well,
I hope it's full at least.
So my theory is that this is, they say the world spirit is connected to the webway. It might be that chamber where they do it is inside the webway.
Maybe.
But
that could be.
Here's how I know that the soul does in fact go into the infinity circuit. Because you can use the standing stones to communicate with the dead and the living alike. A living spirit can speak with the dead souls in the infinity circuit by touching one of the menhirs or standing stones or going to the world shrine. And the spirits manifest as these phantasmal tendrils or dread shades that can terrify and attack intruders or bring, their wisdom to an Exodite who wants to speak to them.
Literally the hidden people.
I know, it's the she. It's the Tuatha De Danann.
Yeah.
In distress, the world spirit can release signals through the webway, psychic visions that are perceived by other Eldari and resonating in nearby craft world infinity circuits. This is how they do distress calls. Hey, we're under attack. The world spirit goes, just like Aquaman. Just imagine those rings emerging from my head. And they send that signal out, and it resonates with nearby craft worlds and stuff that any place that the webway can connect to. And people are like, oh, the beacons are lit. Condor calls for aid. And they will ride to the Exodite world. The spirits within the world spirit are said to give oracular visions to people on the surface.
I don't want to see spiders.
Including, according to the lore, simple navigational directions. If you want GPS, if you want ways to guide you or Google Maps to guide you to your destination, you can ask the world spirit. It's like, turn left at the nearest intersection. Recalculating.
An Eldar Exodite is never lost. Hey, world tree, where do I go?
Yeah. Is it a left or a right at the next exit? The most potent node of the world spirit is called the Royal Circle, and it's a system of concentric megalith avenues in their capital city. And it can manifest an air defense web capable of engaging orbital threats. How does it do this? We have no idea. What does it look like? No idea. Oracular meaning like an oracle, like a prophecy. Oracular.
No, spiders.
In extremis, the world spirit can express its most dangerous manifestation, which is called the dragon aspect. And it can split the ground, manifest storms. It can erupt new volcanoes to cleanse the world if necessary. The very planet itself can be a weapon if necessary, which I think is really, really cool.
All right, all the Eldar are dead. Time to blow up the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Enact the exterminatus.
The heart of a world spirits, or at least the ones that we've seen, like the infinite and the divine, is a massive wraithbone structure that is woven molecularly with dinosaurid bones. So it's kind of an ossuary of dinosaur bones as well as wraith bone, which I think is fucking rad.
It is.
It,
It
it
really is.
they can branch like antlers or into the air or roots into the earth. It can be as large as a mountain. The world spirit's expression is unique on every Exodite planet, and its architecture is not identical in shape, but it is often identical in function. And the stakes are big. The stakes are like existential for the Exodites because the crystalline structure of the world spirit is their most sacred thing. Because if it's breached, if the Exodite souls are released from it, then Slanesh will devour them all. And abandoning a world that they have settled, that the Exodites lived on, means abandoning the souls of every one of your ancestors, everyone who's been placed into that world spirit. And without the replenishment of the souls, the world spirits can diminish. They can become vulnerable. They can become brittle. This is why Exodites would fight with such savage intensity to protect their worlds, because it's not merely their land, it's their own racial afterlife.
Yeah.
They're defending their own heaven by doing this. Well, it's, I mean, questionable whether it's heaven, but it's certainly better than being devoured by Slanesh.
Yes. I do find it funny that they basically send Morse code out through the webway to try to like warn everybody, hey, we're under attack. Come here and defend us, please.
That is really cool. I dig that.
But there is a comment here that I really like.
Grows giant orbital defense mushrooms a la Eureka 7.
Good anime reference.
Oh, that's an anime. Okay.
That is a solid reference.
I don't know that one.
You should add it to your list of stuff to watch.
Michael Texeria, sorry, has a good question. He says, what kind of dinosaur would you like to see? I want to see a Brontosaurus. It would be amazing with Eldar weapons mounted on it.
So if you like that kind of stuff, you could play the game called Conquest, which has one of them. But I'm not here to promote that game because I absolutely love that game. I would like to see some type of very large creature. Yes, a Brachiosaurus or an Apatosaurus would be really nice. But I kind of want to see them go down the route of like Baryonyxes with like one bright lance on it as shock troops. Maybe something along the lines of like Staraka or Triceratops with like the dudes on top, similar to that of the Seraphon. And maybe they could throw in a curveball and do some more like dragons. Like we have no real dragons in 40k. We have the Helldrake, but that thing's a turkey.
For me, it would be the Ankylosaur.
Yeah,
I'd like to see that.
An Ankylosaur would be nice.
Avani DK says with super chat, do we think the Exodite world spirit is related to the Space Wolf's weird world spirit? No, but I could see it. No, whatever is the spirit of Fenris is definitely not a world spirit. I can promise you that. The Exodite world spirits are a whole different thing than whatever's going on with Fenris.
Now watch.
Don't ask me to define what's going on with Fenris, but I can tell you it's not an Exodite world spirit.
Now watch this, Ross. We say definitely no. We get our hands on the book, and it's just like, just by the way,
yeah, it's impossible that the new rule book will in fact completely invalidate everything we said here today. But as far as I know, with the lore that I know, no, it is not.
Yeah, as far as I know, also even Magnus mentions that it's something similar to drawing the powers from the warp itself.
Now it's funny, Michael Texeria asked about the types of dinosaurs because we do know some of the names of the dinosaurs that they ride, the dragons.
Yep. Let me get the list really quickly of dinosaurs.
Going from smallest to largest, we have the Dracolites. The Dracolites are the predatory scaled beasts that are kind of like raptors. They're like hunting hounds. Cute. They're still big. I mean, I would say they're at least horse-sized. They're pony-sized, I guess. They're big. But they detect hidden prey and hunt down prey. They intercept flankers. They're just your quick little. They're similar to cold ones in Warhammer Fantasy, I would argue. Then you've got your Lithodons, which are also basically stegosaurs. armored herd animals that are war beasts, and also howdahs. This is where they put their heavy weapons on the back of them, like a little turret, if you will. Then there's the winged dragons, which are basically pterosaurs. You got your archaeosaurs, which are your general mounts. You got your drake steeds, which are your horse-sized, quick, and intelligent. They are the mounts. These are the mounts that the Dragon Knights ride.
They're pseudo. Okay, so the best way, because I went through these things, they have a beak, which is weird. The snout ends in a point like this, but they also have a curve to their mouth. So it's almost like a Suchomimus, but Suchomimuses no longer exist. So it's more like a Baryonyx, which is part of the Spinosaurus aegypticus, the Spinosaurid family. So it could be something similar to a Baryonyx.
Yeah, Drake Steeds are the new Kill Team Calves has never been it. That's why I wanted to make sure to mention them. Bigger than them, we have the Carnosaurs, and they are basically T-Rexes.
They are straight up the same creature from the Seraphon.
They do have Brachiosaurs. I think they call them Gigantosaurs, which are
they're Gigantosauruses.
Building size. These are your. If this thing dies, it can create a whole local ecosystem based on eating it. The Exodites typically use these as our battle fortresses or artillery beasts, if you will. And then they have the Megasaurs. Long-necked. Go ahead.
They're just even bigger.
Yeah, these are your long-necked, horned herd beasts. These are mostly for farming or cargo, but they also can be used in war. Don't ask me to show you images because I can only show you the Dracolites and the Drake Steeds in the current Kill Team, and the other stuff I don't think has ever had a model. So,
there is that one picture by
Just Goodman.
Yeah, that shows some of it, but that's it.
So the dragons, these saurid creatures that are on all these Exodite worlds, these are maintained by the Exodites. They are carefully fed. They are herded. They are managed through psychic song by the world singers and stone singers. The herd dragons are slaughtered for their protein-rich meat, which is a valuable export commodity. They trade primarily with the craft worlds and the Corsairs.
I just imagine they have the protein shake commercials.
And come to the Exodite worlds. We have the finest beef in the galaxy.
No, like all of their stuff is like high in protein, good for working out, and it shows like a buff Eldar.
Well, that's the Exodites would be the buffists. They are. I mean, I guess aside from maybe Cormorite witches, these guys do a lot of work. And they also use these dragons for their leather and for their bones, which form their material culture, their clothes, their tents, their things like that. What do you think about this so far? What are you thinking so far?
I'm still stuck on the fact that buff Eldar just But jokes aside, I think we could see a lot more with the Eldar if they are brave enough. If GW is brave enough and gives us a dragon riding Farseer leading a squad of pterodactyl riding warlocks, which they have, mind you, they have Farseers, they have warlocks, I would lose my mind. Like, I know that back in the day we had warlocks on bikes and we have Farseers on bikes, but that's dumb and stupid. I want them on dinosaurs, damn it.
So what do we know about them in war? We know that in the peacetime, they ride their herd dragons around in the open range. They engage in honor duels or low-level raiding of other tribes' grazing grounds. It's very Celtic, tribal politic type stuff. But in war, they have their Dragon Knight cavalry. They have their elite Carnosaur riders, their winged dragon aerial cavalry. They have their Megasaur howdahs with crews of up to 12 Exodites with twin-barreled shuriken cannons and laser cannons and fusion lances. Not laser cannons, prism cannons. That's what they're called. Thank you. They have Brachiosaur artillery platforms. They also have the Eldar Knight war machines retained by the noble houses, which would probably now be a good time to talk about what those are.
They also have scout walkers.
Skywalkers, yes, thank you.
Yeah. What
Those are
these
the
things supposed to be?
Revenants Titans, I believe. So
the
the Eldar Knights and the Imperial Knights, these were both introduced in the same White Dwarf issue, 126, June 1990. Hey, that's this month. That's 36 years this month. I love it.
Do you think they planned for that, or do you think that's a coincidence?
I think it's a coincidence, but it's still pretty great.
Yeah, it is.
That single issue of White Dwarf launched both factions at the same time. And this was for epic scale, and it was at a time when 40k was still very young. 40k was like maybe 3 or 4 years old at this time. And the two species knight traditions were written as very deeply intertwined, which that has changed a great deal, obviously, since then. But the original lore from this issue of White Dwarf said explicitly that Exodite maiden worlds were the origin point of the knight concept for both the Imperium and the Eldari. The core backstory is that Exodites arrived on maiden worlds thousands of years before the fall. They built wraithbone walkers to survive the hostile conditions and to herd their megafauna.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like knights.
Honestly, makes sense to me. It does. Over time, a warrior elite formed around these machines, the Eldar Knights, and they organized around the clan hierarchies. Human settlers then arrived on some of these maiden worlds during the Dark Age of Technology. Now, the Dark Age of Technology. Here we go. This is before the Age of Strife, by the way, just so we're clear on the timing. And during the Dark Age of Technology, these humans encountered Eldar Knight technology. Then they copied it and adapted it and developed their own feudal knight houses and throne mechanicums, or thrones mechanicum? I'm guessing thrones mechanicum, as a human-compatible version of the Eldar mind link with their knights. That's awesome. I love that backstory. I got to be honest.
So there is a slight thing that, because I like this. I like this a lot. Because knights can apparently pull souls into their machinery. This is in one of the knight books. It reached into the warp, grabbed its pilot, and pulled it back into its machine spirit. If this was made in the same way as a wraith construct, because that's what the knight. I'm assuming
they're not wraith constructs. They're not wraith constructs are piloted by ghosts. No, this is a wraith bone construct. If you want to go that far,
wraith bone construct.
It is a walker. Let's just say, let's call it a walker.
Yeah, but if it's made in a very similar manner, there is a chance that it does the same thing. And they may have accidentally copied that.
It's fascinating, isn't it, to think about the Thrones Mechanicum being based on Eldar tech? That's kind of wild.
Because like the Golden Throne is Eldar technology, and it functions by siphoning souls.
As it's heavily implied to be related to the Eldar. That's true.
Yeah, we gotta put giant grain of salt with that. According to the Dark Eldar, it is Eldari technology. But trusting the Dark Eldar is stupid.
Fool's errand.
Yeah.
Necro Player, thanks for the super chat. Also, it's karma for fantasy getting the first playable cat girl.
Yeah.
Now 40k got actual proper models for the Warhammer Fantasy Dragon Princes. Very funny. I love that. That's good.
It is so weird. Also, can you cover for one more second?
Yeah, absolutely. Go right ahead. So let's talk about the Eldar Knights a little bit more. These are they're made out of wraithbone, which is a type of psychoreactive plastic that's drawn from the warp. They're similar to Eldari Warwalkers, just bigger. They're piloted via a mind link, and they're controlled by Exodite clan nobles. So it is reserved for the higher in the hierarchies of the Exodite clans. They're now wraithbone is grown rather than forged, and it is generally considered to be somewhat more. It's not as durable as plasteel and ceramites, which is what the Imperium uses for a lot of its machines. But it is more fluid. It's lighter. It's able to. It creates vehicles that are faster and more agile than Imperium versions of the same. The pilot interfaces with the machine psychically, giving it a direct mind link, and it gives it also the agility of a living body. Exodite knights are said to be some of the most agile of all of their kind, and the limbs respond directly to the thoughts of the pilot rather than using any kind of mechanical controls. This is again old lore, so to be really clear. But according to this, the Eldar Knights contain spirit stones that serve two purposes. The spirit stones of the knights give the machine a personality of its own and protects the pilot's soul from Slanesh if they die in battle. Many of these spirit stones, again, older lore, predate the fall of the Eldar and contain ancient personalities. I don't know if that's necessarily a true thing, but it is certainly part of the old lore.
Boop. Yep. What the heck? There we go. We got this. We are professionals.
Benjamin asks, was one of the names of these knights Gypsy Danger by any chance? So the Phantom Titan, we need to cover Eldari Titans on the show. The Phantom Titan is basically Gypsy Danger. It is piloted by twins who are linked in their minds. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
We were just saying the old spirits, according to the old lore, the spirit stones of the Eldari Knights predate the fall and can contain ancient personalities, which I was like, that is absolutely not how the lore is now for spirit stones.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily true. The standard
Games Workshop contradicting their own lore, that it only happens on days that end in a Y.
Shocking. The standard defensive system of all Eldari vehicles that need to be protected by fields is a hollow field. It's a shimmering, refractive, holographic screen that kind of scatters incoming fire, makes it difficult to target where the knight is. And Eldar Knights are said to be significantly faster than Imperial counterparts. They are very agile, very, very quick.
In fact, you can actually see this in the animation, the Exodite, which is really funny. You see a warlord just get chopped up by one.
By a knight?
Oh, sorry, by a Phantom Titan. But
okay,
in general, their technology is faster. Although, weirdly enough, in the Dawn of War 3 trailer, you can actually see a Wraith Knight fight an Imperial Knight, cut one in half. I mean, they have a weak point, and then just get body slammed by another knight.
Ricardo Andre is saying that Wraithbone is 5 times more durable than Imperium Adamantium and Adamantium Void Chip plates. I'd like to see that reference, Ricardo, because the lore very strongly the other way. That
also Adamantium in 40k is just Adamantium from Marvel.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. It is very different metal.
They stole the idea.
They stole the name.
Yes.
It's just really tough iron and steel is really all it is. But the lore on Wraithbone is that it's generally almost always, in fact, more or less durable than adamantium or plasteel or ceramite. It is flexible. It is something you can heal and shape with the psychics, but it is not especially tough. In fact, in Battlefleet Gothic, all the Eldari ships have the lowest armor rating of all the factions.
Yeah,
because they're made out of Wraithbone. Also,
Wraithbone can be used to make prosthetics for the Eldar, and they are so gentle, in fact, that they can move with the face. And Eldar can see it because their eyesight is so accustomed and so powerful. But humans will never be able to know that an Eldar has like a prosthetic arm and maybe half their face was missing.
Okay, second edition codex is where this is said. So 30 some odd years ago. The lore has definitely changed since those days, Ricardo. I
also keep in mind, according to the Imperial Armor books, ceramite can be punched through by a basic 9mm gun. So we're not going to go with GW numbers, and they were very smart to move away from numbers. Because it turns out when you say you have 1 million soldiers in a galaxy, that's a galaxy.
Nobody
you
cares.
Move away from away from numbers.
So let's talk about those Titans really quick. There's the Fire Gale, which is the most common Eldar Knight. It is the lightest of the 3. It is the tall bipedal upright one that we showed you earlier, the most humanoid of the 3. It is armed with a psychic lance as its primary weapon. It is also the least armored of the 3 different types of knights. Its role is fire support, fast attack, and advanced screening. The Fire Gale is basically the same as an Imperial Knight Errant, a mobile and versatile first response machine. Then we have the Bright Stallion, which is the Centaur one. I love this one. I think you like it too, Alexis, because it looks like a horse. And it's a quadruped. It's got a psychic lance as well. And this is the fastest of the Eldari Knights. It is described as the swiftest Night Scale war machine in the setting. So take that for what it means. It's very, very quick. Surprisingly tough. It's supposed to be rugged and heavily armored relative to its speed. And it is the most alien looking. It's the only Centauroid design I can think of in Warhammer, aside from a Zote.
I'm struggling to think. Well, I'm not going to count Tyranid bioforms in this, but like constructs, oh no, I got nothing. I mean, if you chop the legs off of a Defiler and get 4.
Then you got the Towering Destroyer. That's the 4-armed bipedal walker, and it is the most powerful and heaviest of the Eldari Knights. It is also armed with a Psychic Lance, plus a pair of close combat, Knight class close combat weapons, which are either melee blades or crushing arms capable of ripping apart armor. Most likely, this is again very old lore, so I'm sure there's better names for this stuff, but this is what it was called at the time.
I don't even think to put this into perspective for everyone else, these are never mentioned after like 4th or 5th edition. These knights are just gone, which is kind of a shame because I really like them. But as of now, they are still in that category of they're in the universe. They're in the universe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this was actually ArmorCast made a big model of this. ArmorCast was an old producer of a lot of the Forge World stuff. They were like the very first Baneblade model, the very first Titan model. These were made by a company called ArmorCast, and they did make a version of this knight, which I will show you.
Oh my god, I want this so badly.
It's not that great.
I don't care. I love the ArmorCast knights. I have an ArmorCast Warhound, and I love the thing.
There it is.
I love it. It's so dumb looking. It looks like a knockoff Power Ranger toy.
Look at the knight, the Space Marine next to it. It does look. It looks like a Power Ranger toy you'd find from Temu.
Yeah.
Power Rangers or something like that.
Go Power Riders.
Yeah, it would be some kind of cheap knockoff. So there you go. That's what it looks like.
Weirdly enough, it looks more Imperial than Eldar.
Yeah. I mean, ArmorCast was, let's just say it was back in the day when sculpting things in resin was a lot harder. So the Towering Destroyer, it's the most iconic of the Eldari Knights. By the way, that is now an extremely rare collector's item. So if you happen to have one, maybe look at eBay if you want to, fund your college education.
If somebody has a file for it, I would love to 3D print that.
One last.
Have a super chat.
I want to do one last thing before we get to that, though.
Okay.
Just to finish off the Knights, the Psychic Lance. What is the Psychic Lance? It is the standard primary weapon of the Eldari Knights. It deserves its own information because, unlike Imperial Knight weapons, which are like the battle cannons, the volcano cannons, the thermal cannons, the Psychic Lance is a focused psychic energy weapon. It channels through the Wraithbone hull of the Knight by the pilot's mind link. It is capable of penetrating heavy armor by disrupting molecular cohesion. It's basically a disintegration ray rather than raw kinetic or thermal force. It is shorter range than most Imperial Knight weapons and fits into the Eldar philosophy as precision strikes over sustained bombardment.
I mean,
now the rest of their weapons are things like your scatter lasers, your pulse lasers, your bright lances. Bright lance, that's the other one I was thinking of, and sonic weapons, depending on the role. That's all. That's it for the Knights. Please go back to the super chat.
Before you mention that, before we get to the super chat, the way that I see this weapon being used is because these things are fast and agile. They're going to be running circles while shooting at like knees and like waists. just so that they can damage those things so that they can't move forward anymore. So I really like the idea. Oops, sorry, I clicked it. There we go.
Necroplayer, thank you so much for the super chat. Question for end of stream, Alexis. How did you feel about the other announcements for the Games Workshop stream yesterday?
Oh my god. Okay. So I started recording a reaction that went about 20 minutes, and 15 minutes of that 20 minutes I was talking about ogre fashion and how ogres have to have farmers and have to have like animal caretakers, and they actually have to have animal caretakers that actually tend to the animals, because if the animal takes too much abuse, the leather will be super hard and everything. And then my whole thing got corrupted except for the first like 20 minutes of that recording, and I'm debating whether or not I should release that if people would watch that.
Well, I would like to hear your thoughts on the new Escher models.
They look okay.
That's it? Wow.
I honestly thought they just when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, it's the Escher kit again. That was it. And then I looked at them closer and I was like, oh yeah, they look good. I want them for my Escher guard army.
Some of the names they threw out were Chem Witch and Blade Maiden, which I was like, oh, those are Alexis is gonna like these names.
I do really like their names, and I love that they released the 2 gayest looking gangs in Pride Month.
the Goliaths, yeah. There's definitely them and the Escher,
Yeah, like
there's definitely some you can connect the dots.
Yeah, which is why I actually love them as much as I do.
So let's talk about how the Exodites deal with the other Eldari factions.
With dinosaurs and
how do you let me ask you this: what do you think the relationship is like between the Exodites and the other factions?
So the only one that I know for sure is that Corsairs and their relation is actually very close. I love that for them. I think that's great. And the Corsairs will actually freely defend them with nothing in return, which is, again, this is not all Corsairs. When I say something like this, it's not every single one of them does this. It's, hey, some of them do this.
Most. I would argue most.
Yeah. I would also argue most. But the fact that the Corsairs out of all of the Eldar come to their aid as quickly as they can without expecting anything in return shows that they have a level of honor that most Eldar don't. They don't treat the Corsairs as outsiders. They treat them as honored kin, I would imagine, for them to have these trades back and forth. Granted, they also trade them extremely rare dinosaur meat, which I 100% would eat. I 1000% I would eat that. I love that. I want that as a book. That could be a book. Like Void Scars 2 Electric Boogaloo is all about Exodites. Or actually call it Exodite Boogaloo. There we go. I would be so down for that. When it comes to not Corsairs, Craft World, they're kind of seen in the same way, in my mind. They're kind of seen in the same way that Pathfinders are seen, where it's like Rangers and Pathfinders, where it's like, yeah, there are kin.
Yeah, it's complicated.
But like, it's kind of like when your boomer like nephew comes over, and the Exodites are the millennials in this case, and you're just like, ugh.
Let's go back to the Corsairs for a minute. Let's go back to the Corsairs for a minute, because there's some really interesting lore here. You're correct. There is a very close relationship between Corsairs and Exodite worlds. The Corsairs have made especially heavy use of Exodite worlds as safe havens and trade partners and resupply points, which I talked about earlier. In several cases, Corsair fleets provide orbital protection to Exodite worlds in return for safe harbor. It is not an entirely one-sided relationship. They do get, a place to hang out, and the world spirit will defend them if the world is attacked, that kind of thing. But it is a pragmatic arrangement where the isolationist Exodites tolerates the Corsairs as a necessary security measure, but also they love the way that the Corsairs bring them news or goods that they can't otherwise attain. Right, the Corsairs are in this way. The Corsairs are not unlike a rogue trader in that they can, have an exchange. Now, there are specialist Exodite hunters, or sorry, specialist Exodite animal trainers, I should say, or beast tamers, that are called Kernite hunters. They worship the god Kernus, and they maintain menageries of trained beasts, including something called a falchu.
I choose you.
Yeah, I think that's that may be a falcon. I don't know. Anyway, these Kernite hunters sometimes join the Corsair crews from the Exodite worlds. I don't know if we'll see Kernite hunters as future Exodite releases or not, but it would be really neat if they did.
Yeah.
Now, as for the craft worlds, you're largely correct. There is a cordial relationship, but it is tinged with condescension on both sides.
Yeah, that's one thing that I absolutely love. It's just boomers and millennials sitting in the room together like, ah.
So craft worlders regard Exodites as these rustic, vigorous, and wild people, whereas the Exodites regard craft worlders as dangerously close to the old ways of the Eldari before the fall. They think of the craft worlders like the craft worlders think of the Drukhari, which is incredible.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
And despite this tension, they do trade regularly, dinosaur meat being a very common form of trade. And they have provided military aid with each other in emergencies. They maintain close ties through blood bonds and shared webway routes. The closest craft world that we know of to the Exodites is Samhan, the Wild Riders.
Samhan actually really likes them. They maintain a somewhat close relationship, given what they are, because the Samhan send people to them to train them. Like, they're like, it's a rite of passage. Go and try to survive a dinosaur.
The Samhan, they send their young warriors to Exodite worlds as a rite of passage. One of the ones is described as catching a dagger snake in your hand mid-strike. Which is very it's both Celtic and Native American in a lot of ways. It's definitely I like it. I dig it a lot. Several craft worlds, especially those who are devoted to protecting maiden worlds like Bieltan, will often send forces to defend Exodite worlds when they're called upon. There is a prophecy that holds that the Exodite princes of Providence, the Guardians, will lead the craft worlds against great threats in the future, suggesting the Exodites may have a pivotal role to play in the fate of the Eldari. Yeah, we were just talking about this, Devin Rubina. Bieltan, their protection of maiden worlds is a big thing for them, and if a maiden world has Exodites on it, the Bieltan are like, "Yep, we'll protect you," not because of the Exodites, but because it's a maiden world.
Yeah.
What do you think the relationship is like between the Ynnari and the Exodites?
So the Ynnari have maiden worlds that have Exodites on them. So it's strange, but not. It's kind of like having a goth sister. Well, in my family, I was the goth sister. So it's like, we're family, but you're weird.
So Yvraine herself used to be a Corsair. Yeah. And because of this, she has close ties to some Exodite tribes and cultures and clans. But there is a major point of theological and cultural stress between them. What do you expect that would be?
I assume it's the death thing.
It is the death thing, because the Exodites largely believe that awakening Ennead would consume the souls in every world spirit. And they're like, this is bad. We don't want that. But at the same time, you seem really cool. The idea of a god coming to life to save us from Slanesh, that's really cool. What is it going to be?
It's very, very strange. Because, okay, on one hand, the Exodites desperately need the help. Like, they simply don't have, like, a naval fleet that can actually deal with most threats. Like, if Tyranids come, they're kind of SOL. So they need the outsiders to help them, though they themselves need to be polite to them and get along with them, which they can with the Yanari because the Yanari are open to everyone. The Corsairs, absolutely. Sam Han and Beal 10, yes. The other craft worlds, it's like, we'll come to your aid, but and it's like we gotta protect these idiots, and it's like, yeah. And then I didn't see their relation with the Drukhari.
Oh, I can tell you about that. The Drukhari are hostile. They are outright hostile. They like to pillage Exodite worlds for slave raids, and homunculi have poisoned entire world spirits just to prey upon the souls of the Exodites directly. Remember, the Drukhari save their souls from Slanesh through torture and suffering of others.
Yep.
And Exodites are one of their. They like to go mess with the Exodites. The
jerks.
In fact, the Drukhari Beastmasters are known to kidnap Exodite beast tamers for their own to learn their skills.
All right, that's pretty cool, actually.
The Drukhari view Exodites as grass-chewing simpletons who follow Isha. How dare you, sir?
How dare you throw a true fact at me, you jerk?
Some Drukhari do find unique value in the purity of Exodite living and the world singers and their maiden worlds. This is why the rune in Drukhari does mean purity. They do see them as a purer expression of Eldari than themselves, which is a remarkably self-aware thing for the Drukhari, I should point out.
Yeah.
Then there's the Harlequins. Oh,
we do
Ricky Chapman.
Chat real quick.
Rick Chapman, thank you so much. He says, we have a feeling the Exodites for a time are not going to be the punching bag in the novels. Also, our rogue trader wants those dinosaurs.
So I actually have a story for you, Ricky Chapman.
Ooh.
In my rogue trader game, a Saurid ridden by a person who might have been trained by an Exodite jumped aboard our craft to attack us. And my character, being a psyker, altered the memory of the creature so that its first sight ever was me, which made the creature protective over me. So there you go. That's how you can use dinosaurs in your campaigns, because they're birds, essentially. Or birds are technically dinosaurs, but vice versa.
Well, in the 40k universe, dinosaurs are very clearly reptilian and not avian.
Yeah, but it would still work.
The Kroot are the closest avian dinosaur thing you can find. Oh,
well,
my
I mean,
God,
even if they are reptile, they would still have the bird-like traits in them. I could go into a whole spiel about reptiles and birds being very close.
There's another main world. There's another main world we need to talk about, but I want to get to the Harlequins first. The Harlequins, they visit Exodite worlds as they do all Eldar communities. And they perform their mythic cycle dances as they do. The Exodites, some Exodites have been drawn into the Harlequin troops. The Harlequins call the Exodites the kindred of the garden, which I think is a really cool name. It captures both their closest to the nature and their perceived innocence, if you will, compared to the other factions of Eldari. And then we get to the Imperium of Man, because there is a maiden world I created for the Gilead system in Wrath of Glory. It's called Gilead Secundus, which was originally a maiden world. And after the fall of the Eldar and the rise of the Imperium, Gilead Secundus was discovered and claimed by humans. It became a training world, a militarized training environment and active war zone, where Imperial forces conduct prolonged campaigns and exercises against Xenos and heretic threats. And they do this, it is one of those worlds that has a lot of dinosaurs on it. So if you want to see Imperials fighting dinosaurs, Gilead Secundus is where you go. Now, naturally, the Imperium fights Exodites as they do all Xenos wherever they can find them. Karnak is the one that has probably the most notable battle, where the Necron invaders were eventually successful, even though Alatok tried to fight them off. So if you want to find out more about that, you can look up the world Karnak, Carnac. All right, so the Exodites box contents gives us the Dragon Masters, the Drekalites. It gives us the Clan Blade, the Stone Singer, the Lay Stalker. I love these names.
Yeah,
Love these names.
I like the Stone Singer. That one's probably my favorite.
The Stone Singer is a psyker, obviously. Presumed to be able to work with souls in the world spirit, have abilities that can rupture both armor and flesh, and heal fellow Dragon Riders. That's what I'm presuming they can do. And
Yeah,
there's
makes sense.
the Lay Stalkers are master snipers, and they ride a dinosaur while shooting. Which, I mean, that's going to be some training on that dinosaur for sure. The Clan Blade is a close quarters fighter with a, I'm assuming, some sort of power weapon, and probably your general or your sergeants of that group. That group. You know, the one that kind of dictates the tactics. And
I'm assuming the Stone Singer is going to be a healer.
I'm assuming that too. That's why I mentioned they probably can heal.
So what I'm assuming that this is going to happen, because gameplay wise, this is exactly how I would make it. 1, this box contains the 2 units. Okay, there's 3 dinosaurs and then the 2 little guys. I don't care about the little guys. I'm only going to talk about the 3 dinosaurs. Actually, those little guys, if they have stats, they might actually just be ability tokens. But if they have stats, those are the things you kill first. But I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to hope it's true. I think the character variant of it might be able to join the Dragon Knight unit and form one big unit of 6. That's how I would want it to run. And with new GW boxes, 1 box is 1 unit. So if it doesn't contain the 6, it probably won't. But we have seen Blade Guard veterans, which there are only 3 to a box, and Eradicators, which are only 3 to a box, and they're in a unit of 6. So it could be that you could run a big unit of Dragon Knights at 6 models each, which would balance it out with the Kroot unit. It would balance it out with most of the Imperial units that are elites in units of 6. And I would like to see the character roster be able to join a unit, because then it could be really, really, really good. And you could actually have a unit that makes it up the battlefield instead of a unit that's going to have like a 4-up save with maybe a 6-up invo save, just getting eradicated as they try to move up the field because they don't move quick enough. It's weird to say that these dinosaurs are probably not going to move quick enough to do something in an Eldar army, because the Eldar army is known for its speed.
Well, Exodites are supposed to be, Exodites are supposed to have a lot of really fast stuff.
Yeah.
Like I imagine they're going to be a very mobile army.
Yeah. The only problem that I'm seeing is that these things are going to sit in the same spot as Shining Spears, and they're going to be cool. They're going to sell, obviously. Are they going to be relevant on the tabletop? Probably not. And that's the unfortunate problem. We saw the same thing with the Eldar Corsairs. All the Corsair units are really, really cool, but you typically only use them for action monkeys, and that's it. So I'm hoping they have a rule that says that they could do an action and still fight, or an action and shoot, or something like that. That would be cool. Or the ability to advance into an action would also make them extremely relevant. So I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to seeing their rules and being like, this unit is good or this unit is trash garbage. And when it comes to Eldar, there are no balanced units. It's either good or bad. They have a very hard time of keeping things in the middle.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing I'd like to cover before we go to any other the models or anything else is the question of Exodite morality. Exodites are largely seen as, there are no good guys in 40k, but the Exodites are largely seen as the least evil of the factions of Eldari. And here's why. They don't seek conquest or expansion. They harbor outcasts and welcome those who come in peace. They maintain a very straightforward and effective soul protection system, possibly the greatest of all the Eldari. And they're willing largely to leave people alone if they are left alone. Those are all admirable traits. I would say that does tend to frame them as a very peaceful and hands-off group, and possibly the only Eldari faction that sees war as a bad idea.
Yeah.
However, even they are still Eldari, and Eldari have that wildness within them, that darkness within them. All Eldari do. Corsairs, Harlequins, Drukhari, Asuryani, Exodites, all of them have that inner part of themselves that they have to keep in check.
Mhm.
So you can see this with the younger Dragon Knights in their honor duels. You can see this with the interclan raiding and the blood feuds that are talked about as being an accepted part of their society. So they're still very prideful. They still look at all other species as beneath them. Hell, I imagine the Exodites look at all the other Eldari cultures to say that they're probably beneath them. Just like all the other Eldari cultures look at every other Eldari culture and say that's beneath us. So they're capable of that violent anger and hot-headed, impulsive bloodshed that is just part and parcel of the Eldari in general. They can be very fiercely territorial. They are willing to slaughter trespassers without hesitation. So, morally and ethically speaking, they are the least evil, but they are still not good guys. And you can look at them in a way kind of like doomsday preppers or survivalists who just happen to be right about everything falling apart at the right time. And they were able to build this sustainable society in the aftermath. But it's funny that their version of sustainable society is considered extremely radical by all the other Eldar factions.
Yeah.
What is
we grow plants and have food and have a sustainable lifestyle, and we welcome all those who are nice to us. The craft worlders, ew.
Right.
We do have 2 super chats here.
Leader 2457 in the live stream, they said 4 data sheets, 3 individual characters, or dragon riders as a unit. Okay,
I'm
so
okay
we're going
with
to see
this.
some more of those.
So the 3 are individuals, which could be really cool. So it's probably, it's probably going to be a leader, a support, and another leader or support. And then the Dragon Knights are going to be their own unit. It would be really cool to see if Dragon Knights can go up to 6. I really hope they can. I'm hoping none of these are epic characters yet. I hope they get an epic character, because if they get 2, they're on the same level as... Actually, if they get 1, they're on the same level as Imperial Knights, who only have 1 epic character, because they can't say Mechanicum anymore. Jerks. You got a second.
Well, and the one thing I'm looking forward to from the new Kill Team box is actually the book, the dossier, whatever you want to call it, because it is going to be a treasure trove of new lore on the Exodites. I cannot wait to read it. The Exodites, talking about the Exodites like we have today, I know, and I think we've given you an extremely thorough overview of what is known. But talking about them today reminds me of something that Alexis is both likes and dislikes, which is the fact that the lore has evolved over the years, these 30 some odd years, and has been retconned, and has evolved, and has changed. The very first Inquisitor that we know of was Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau from the first edition of 40k, which was also called Rogue Trader. And that is obviously a silly tongue-in-cheek reference that has never been replicated since. There's stuff in second edition that has evolved or changed and never been seen again.
Isn't the TARDIS in second edition as a War Gear card?
The Necrons, who were introduced in third edition, came from the second edition Chaos Androids and have been retconned numerous times. My point is that stuff that happened 36 years ago is not necessarily how it looks today. And that is true of all of the editions of 40k. Like, the only truth, the only thing you know for sure that is absolutely 100% true is the current rulebook and the current codexes, and that is the truth. And everything before that is more or less a fever dream, a vision of what was and what may be again. And the Exodites are one of the greatest examples of this, because for so long they were just an idea. They were just a dream, a vision in the fog. And now we have models for them. But this is,
still can't get over.
If you take nothing else away from this episode, 40k is a lore that constantly grows and evolves and changes, despite the fact that the timeline may not advance nearly as fast as most other IPs. Games Workshop does a really good job of this, but it does mean that talking about lore, like we do here on this channel, can be sometimes tricky. And some of the things that we say are like, well, this was true then, but it's not true now. And sometimes this, this is why sometimes I'll say things that you're like, oh, that's wrong. That's back in second edition. It was this way. Well,
Yeah,
that may be true, but it also may be true that it's very different now. So keep that in mind. We do have a cool super chat from Hooligan Mulligan. Thank you so much, Hooligan Mulligan. Good to see you. Love me mine. Love me Votan. Hate some elves. The Votan. We need to do an episode on the Leagues of Votan. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that one paragraph of lore.
No, they got more than that now.
I know, I'm just joking.
Actually, I'm at the part where they're visiting the Leagues of Votan in the Voigtsguard novel, so I'm really excited about that.
I love it so much.
I'm really excited about that.
So you're almost up to the food part.
Well, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we? There's two things. Okay.
There was an important question here, and you could tell they wrote important question, full caps.
Quit shouting. Important question. Will we return to talk about Exodites when they are released? Yes. When the book is available and Alexis and I have had a chance to read it, we will absolutely talk about it. 100%. So, Alexis, I'm going to leave the choice up to you. Fan theories and headcanon or potential new units for an Exodite faction?
I mean, we could probably do both, and that's kind of what I want to do. And both is always an option.
Ricky Chapman coming in with a steel chair of a super chat. Tip for rogue traders. A good bit of profit can be made from dealing with Exodites if handled with a delicate and calm hand. We traded hard to acquire resources for petty trinkets we'd sell onto others. Oh, I bet you could make a pretty penny from Exodite trinkets.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Kroot would love them. Like, that would be a good novel. Just Kroot and Exodites fighting against... Well, just fighting against something.
Oh, yeah, together? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're just like, they're looking at each other and they're noticing their cultures are very similar. But it's fine because it's not Tau. So it's totally fine.
Okay, all right. So what would you like to dive into next?
All right, what are some fan theories? Let's go with that first.
Oh, okay, fan theories. So first of all, the question of whether or not the Exodites were the origin of the Imperial Knights. Do you believe that that is true or false?
Well, first off, I got a Kovu. So this is one of those things where I feel like it is no longer the case because we do know where the origins of the Imperial Knights are nowadays. According to the Imperium, though.
Right, strictly through the lens of the Imperium, right?
So both can be true simultaneously.
Right.
Like the people that explored out could have been inspired by that and made the knights to fight against the behemoths of the jungles, which is what the knights were originally meant for. Which they could have been inspired by the Eldar, or the Exodites in this case. Now the Imperium takes over and they're just like, nope, we totally made these ourselves. And that is something that the Imperium does quite a bit.
Right, but the knights did exist prior to the Imperium. They were around prior to the Great Crusade.
What I'm saying is they changed the origin for them as propaganda.
Which is also something that happened to a lot of local legends and stuff in Britain, especially Celtic stuff, which was adopted by the Catholic Church.
Yep.
I should say the Christian Church adopted into Christian faith as like, no, this has always been true. You know?
Yeah, like unicorns. Unicorns are my favorite addition to the Bible.
I do like the idea that the Eldari Exodites see all these Monkai show up, just like a bunch of teenagers with 16-wheelers creating their own versions of the Eldari Knights, and they're like, okay, it's nice, I guess.
It works, but
let's see.
But apparently the humans on some worlds were extremely nice to the Exodites and lived alongside them for quite a while. Like maybe even hundreds of years.
Yeah, that would be interesting. The other fan theory I think you'd really appreciate is that there's this theory that the Ynnari and the Corsairs or the Harlequins and now the Exodites are all these sort of awkward, on the edge of the Asuryani Jukari civilization groups. They're all essentially sub-factions of the two big factions.
Yeah.
And one widely discussed fan theory is that you could just take all four of those and turn them into a solid third faction called something like Agents of the Eldari, kind of like Agents of the Imperium.
So this is already being a thing. And this is actually something that's been happening quite a bit. The Corsairs are definitely just agents. Like, that's how they're built, and they're strictly for the Eldari. They can be put into Drukari armies. They could be put into Craft World armies. So they are 100% the agents of the Imperium, but Eldar. So that's where I see the Exodites going into as well, is being a part of that, which is then spread throughout it, which is how they should handle it.
Fair. Got a super chat from Ricardo Andre. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Wraithbone is described as better in Wrath and Glory. Hey, I wrote that. It just has better strength to thickness ration.
I think they mean ratio.
Ratio, yeah, I think so. Imperium just has enough more to compensate. So the Imperium and the Eldar both have their wonder material, right? For the Imperium, that's adamantium, which is said to be their strongest, most durable, material. The Wraithbone that's described for the Eldari has the advantage of being sort of semi-organic or semi-alive. It can heal, it can be grown and shaped. It's got its own properties that make it a wonder material for the Eldari. It may in fact be true that pound for pound, inch for inch, Wraithbone is tougher. Okay, that may in fact be true. But I will state with some authority that Wraithbone, as portrayed in the lore, is generally portrayed as being brittle or less durable. Just look at all the armor values for all the Eldari vehicles. Just look at all the armor values for the Eldari ships. Just look at all the saving throws for Eldari as compared to other species.
Or the fact that chainswords chew through it.
So, sure, I will stipulate that it may in fact be better pound for pound. That's perfectly fine with me. But portrayal in the lore is that Wraithbone it's just for whatever reason, maybe has to do with other physical aspects of it. We're not sure, but for whatever reason, it just is portrayed in the lore as being less durable, less protective overall. There is, as far as I'm aware, there's no Eldari infantry with a 2-up armor save. There's no Eldari vehicles with a 14 armor value.
Yeah,
stuff like that. So, you're welcome to your opinion, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying that's how I believe it to be based on what I know and what I've learned through time. So
I'm actually trying to think if there's an Eldari vehicle with 14 armor that isn't just the Phantom Knight or the Phantom Titan.
Well, Titan, okay, Titans I would exclude from vehicle as a category, but Hannah says don't need armor if you don't get hit. That is the Eldari way. They use hollow fields to protect their
even
vehicles.
their spaceships spaceships use that. There are some infantry that can get access to it. The Wraith constructs, the Wraith Guard can even get it as a dual disc. Looks kind of cool.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So the Agents of the Eldari is a full-on third faction as opposed to all these little sub-factions. That's kind of a neat idea, and I like it. It would solve some problems. Because the Corsairs and the Ynnari are already pan-faction groups that can join everybody. The Harlequin is a pan-faction. Harlequins are a pan-faction group. The Exodites are at least as far as we're aware, are not a pan-faction group, but they could be in the new thing. So there's that. All right, so a lot of fan theories revolve around how primitive the Exodites actually are. Are they techno-hippie dino riders? Are they Luddites? Are they Wood Elves or Mad Max? I mean, what are we talking about here? The common fan theory is that they have all the full Eldari technology and the full knowledge. They just don't use it in their day-to-day lives. In war, they field all the advanced tech that they can get. Wraithbone lances, shuriken cannons, fusion lances. Pre-fall of the Eldar equipment is probably available to them in probably more than almost any other faction. So is it a fairly grounded thing where their noble houses keep the high-tech stuff around, you just lock it in a vault and they live low-tech by choice? Or is it secretly that they're the most technologically capable, that they're just pretending to be primitive, kind of like how the Space Wolves pretend to be barbarians? What do you think?
So flat out, it just says that the Exodites have all of the technology. They just choose not to use it, like elevators. I'm gonna keep bringing that up because it's really funny that they wrote that down. But we can see that they have titans. They have knights. I meant to say knights. They have knights that are way advanced. They have all of the same tech and weapons and shielding and everything, including the armor and everything that every Eldar uses. They just choose a harder life because that's what their path, I'm using that term loosely here, but that's what their life choice is. They want to be, they want to have a harder life to keep themselves more focused and less likely to go down the path of war, go down the path of ruin, become part of something that will ultimately lead to their destruction.
Well, something we know about the Eldar in general is that they tend to be obsessive. They tend to find the thing that they believe is their identity or their definition, and they tend to pursue it. This is how people get lost on the paths for the craft world. This is how you get the Corsairs who decide that the paths are not for them, but the path of the outcast is technically a path. And they do that. And they do that as hard as they can.
So are the Exodites
right,
their own special path?
Right. You can look at it like a path in that it is a form of obsession that is just endemic to Eldari culture.
Yeah.
So the Drukhari, for all their protestations that they're all about freedom, live under a tyrant, Asdrubal Vect, and they are locked into a highly stratified society with very strict rules. So it's just part and parcel. I think the Harlequins may be the most quote unquote free, but even they are spiritually dedicated to Segorok and the art of performance. So even, I mean, that's just maybe a side effect of the way that they choose to live their lives, is that they have a little bit more freedom. Maybe the Ynnari are the least obsessive because they're still trying to figure themselves out. Maybe, possibly. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm speculating. I don't know for a fact.
No,
that's true.
I'm right there with you, though. Although I do feel like GW didn't know what to do with the Ynnari and kind of gave up.
It does feel like that a little bit.
I'm just putting that out there. Like,
does feel
they tried to hand it to Gavthorpe, and Gavthorpe didn't know what to do with them, and now they just occasionally help the Imperium.
This is a fan theory I tend to agree with, which is that the dinosaurs and dragons are not actually dinosaurs. They're not from Earth. They're not Terran dinosaurs, although they might be. And that's where, fun fact, that may be the whole origin of the webway in the Himalayas. Could be. It's possible that they are related to Terran dinosaurs, but the fan theory is that they're not. The fan theory is that they are just some alien being that the Eldari have learned to domesticate and tame and train and genetically seed upon their terraformed worlds. So if they are not entirely dinosaurs, which now we know Games Workshop calls them Drake Steeds or Dracolites instead of...
they have to copyright it.
Right. So Games Workshop seems to be leaning away from traditional dinosauric names for these things.
I kind of think this.
So Vani DK says Terra could be a lost maiden world? ?
I'm not gonna lie.
It's possible.
I'm kind of there with this one because that would explain the giant pyramid of Eldari tech. Maybe it would explain all the weird names of creatures on Earth that share with Eldari, like the striking scorpions, things like that. I love the idea that the entire time and all of humanity is actually being manipulated by Eldred. It's a stupid theory of mine, but it's dumb and I love it.
Well, those are the most entertaining fan theories. Would you like to talk about some possible Exodite unit concepts?
Okay. Right off the bat, we have the Carnosaur Rider, which would just be the Farseer, so they can't have Altarks. So they would have something equivalent to a champion that rides one, which we do know that they have a champion, which is cool. So it would be like that on a Carnosaur. And Carnosaurs are relatively big. So I could see that being something like that, one of their units. But I'd rather see the dragons. I want to see elves riding dragons in 40k using technology to deflect missiles coming at them and everything. Because I think that is just silly enough for 40k. Like, Warhammer 40k should not be a serious setting. It should be a satirical setting. And having dinosaur elves blocking missiles and being communist is like the greatest satire ever.
I started thinking about, after Friday's show, I was like really astonished by how much of the craft world visual language was part of the Exodite models. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating, because it starts to make me think of like what you could do with craft worlder technology through the lens of an Exodite world. And one thing I came up with was the idea of a what I'm calling a laywalker or warframe laywalker, which is essentially the Eldari version of a tree man. If you can imagine a Wraithbone dreadnought, kind of like a Wraith Lord, okay? But
you're bringing back the Eldari dreadnought. Hell yeah, let's go.
But it is woven with the Wraithbone with thornwood and dinosaur bone, so it's got this half organic, half mechanical look to it, and it is a Wraith construct. It's piloted by Exodites whose spirits were too fierce to enter the world spirit, the most warlike of their kind. So the pilot has full consciousness, full memory, full personality, and makes them much more aggressive and emotionally volatile in battle. So basically a tree man, basically Durthu as a Wraithbone construct that they could field.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that's kind of what I had in mind.
I also think that they need a Carnosaur wielding like the same tech as a like the prism cannon. They need to have one of those. They need to have an artillery piece. They need to have. There are certain key units that an army needs to function in Warhammer 40k. They need an action monkey, which is pretty easy. And the way that I would actually do this is the way I do my Space Wolf army, which, if you don't know, my Space Wolf army is very dinosaur themed already. I use like cold ones in my units as replacements for some of the intercessors. Like, I'll have 3 intercessors and 2 dinosaurs, and those 2 dinosaurs just represent more intercessors. It's just to go with the theme. If I'm in a tournament, I tell my opponent, and then I just replace them as we go, so they know where everything is. But I could see them having, like, because they have these little dinosaurs, which is perfect. These little creatures that they got with them. I could see them being a unit of action monkeys. Like, if they're next to a psyker, they gain OC1 so that they can do actions then. There are things like they need a shock assault unit, which the Dragon Knights look like. They need a suppression unit, which, weirdly enough, that sniper looks like, but they would need more than just one sniper. One sniper doesn't make a unit. So there's quite a few units that they're going to need. And I think having a big dinosaur, a Stegosaurus, and a Triceratops or Ceratopsiid, or I can't remember the family group for Stegosaurus right now. I'm so sorry. I know you're not going to sleep at night not knowing that, Ross. You're going to be like, damn it. But I think they need to just take the Lizardmen dinosaurs, put them into 40k, and be like, here you go. The Star Engine is now an Eldari beam weapon, and go from there.
Nestor Vitumbra gives us a super chat. Thank you, Nestor Vitumbra. He says, what if the ubiquitous Grox was a protected species brought from the Eldar homeworlds by the Exodites and later bought or poached by some rogue trader? That's a cool idea. I
could definitely see that, because Groxes are, well, I think you mean the cat and not maybe the Grox, because the Grox is that huge creature,
No,
right?
I think they're talking about the Groxes, the
Oh,
cows in
okay.
40k.
Yeah, the cow that can maul anything to death. I mean, in all fairness, a cow can maul any human to death. So, yeah. Give them a big frog on a floating chair. Hell yeah.
Here's an idea. A spirit cairn, which is a portable wraithbone obelisk. It's carried to battle on a lizard-born litter by 4 Exodites attendants. And once planted, the spirit cairn acts as like a forward node of the world spirit. It can project onto the battlefield rather than rooted into the planet's crust. And maybe it can generate those abilities that we've heard in the lore that the world spirit can project, like the air defense or whatever. It could create a psychic dome to grant Exodites immunity to morale effects because the dead are literally speaking encouraging words to them. It might even be able to damage opponents with short manifestations of the dread spirits of the dead that are housed within the wraithbone circuits of the world spirit.
Like this.
And it could even improve the power of the world singer or world caller if there's a lower equivalent of the world singer of a psychic. It could be a amplifier for the psychic powers of the world singer.
Ross,
and if destroyed, the spirit cairn unleashes a wave of anguished spirit energy that damages everyone around it. Enemies only. So
I keep hearing spirit Karen, and I'm just like, it's gonna talk to your manager.
It's Karen, Cairn, Karen.
Yeah, but here's how I would make that work. It would be an ability, a detachment ability that would pick a piece of terrain, and on that terrain you get one of 3 effects: +1 OC to represent the spirits helping you, +1 leadership, and then enemies get -1. They don't get the benefit of cover. That's how I would do it. Also, cool. Kofu, can you pick a like, you look so uncomfortable. Look at him. He's just squishing his face.
Like the world caller is another unit I had in mind, which was essentially the warlock version of a world singer. It's their hero level psyker rather than lord level psyker. But they could, in my mind, they're draped in dragonhide that's woven with circuits and patterns that connect them to the world spirit, and they carry staffs that are topped with a fist-sized shard of crystal that is part of the world spirit that they carry with them. And they can use all the craft roll disciplines, but they also have their own lore of magic or psychic powers, if you will. And one of the things they could do is summon some of those wraith shade manifestations that we were hearing about, or suppress enemy psychic powers, or maybe, and this is my favorite part, they could possibly mark part of the battlefield as a hallowed ground, and enemies who die there feed the world spirit rather than Slaanesh.
Okay.
Just I'm throwing out ideas.
No, I'm letting you cook with this because this is a good idea.
And if you remember that one image I showed of the Eldari Knight, which had all the thorn patterns, was painted like a Bealton with the shield and lance.
Yeah.
I would like to see something like that, and I would probably term that as like a pre-fall Eldari war machine. I'm thinking like it would be called something like the Maiden's Wrath or Isha's Destruction.
Probably,
tie it into their.
I would go with Isha's Defender.
There you go, because it has a shield, right?
Yeah,
Isha's Guardian.
Protecting.
Yeah, and it's but take that Revenant style of a Titan or a Knight, but make it a little more organic looking. Give it some antlers, some more vine work and clan totems that are worked into the Wraithbone.
I'm sorry, you didn't see that, but I went to put my cat on the couch, and he flipped over my hand to bite me.
That is a cute kitty.
Yeah, I love
it. And the other option instead of the lance, though, it would be one of your favorite weapons, Alexis.
Oh no,
the whip sword.
Okay.
The sword that can be a whip with blades attached to it, something like that. That would be pretty wild.
The most dangerous weapon in all of
history. Yes, I know you hate that weapon, so that's why I wanted to include it.
Yep.
It would make a good centerpiece model for your army, or like your big, like your Riptide suit equivalent would be something like that.
Now, I don't have hang on, I got to make sure I get this correctly. I personally don't own any Exodites. Obviously, I
Me
don't
neither.
have any. It turns out that they are hard to get. But
Collector's edition stuff.
I have something close. I have funny looking dinosaurs with my guys. And I figured since this is a Exodite episode, I'd just show them off if we had a little tiny bit of time left. And it seems like we do. So I want to show you some of the funny conversions that I did because I wanted Exodites and I couldn't get it. And I had a Space Wolf army that wanted dinosaurs. So this is my Space Wolf army where I replaced the wolves with dinosaurs.
Nice.
So this is a jump pack captain. We got all of my characters have their personally trained raptors. And each of the raptors that are with the characters are a special raptor from a different pack in Jurassic Park. Like that's blue right there. And then this is the raptor from Jurassic World 4, whatever it was called, that terrible movie. That's my assassin. Combi Lieutenant, Ragnar Blackmane, and the big one. The big one being the raptor from the first movie. Logan Grimnar and his 2 big, beautiful dinosaurs.
Nice.
Look at that eye. I'm so proud of that eye. I'm really proud of this model in particular. But since we have dinosaurs to look at, and I want to give people inspiration because I have done this with just some dinosaurs I had laying around and some space wolves. Now imagine what you could do with elves at home. This is all of my crazy Thunderwolf cavalry.
Looking cool. I dig it.
Yeah.
This is the part of the episode where I say, if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the grim darkness of the far future, please do us a favor, hit the like button and the subscribe button, because that will help spread our heresy to more unsuspecting minds through the algorithm. We appreciate all of you for joining us today on Lorebeards 40k. This is a highly speculative episode with a lot of really old lore, but I've super enjoyed being here with you guys and talking to you about one of my favorite topics, that being the Exodites. Ricky Chapman says, maybe a big armored dinosaur that has a force field generator on its back. It would be a support unit, maybe giving a 5+ save within an inch. I'm guessing a 5+ invulnerable save within a few inches.
So this thing can exist, all right? But it would be even better than you think. It would be on a large, like, Stegodon or something, a big creature, and it would give a 4 or 5 up invulnerable save to everything within 6 inches of it.
That's like Azrael's helmet.
It is, but Azrael now has to join a unit to do that.
Okay.
There used to be a Deredeo shield that you put on the Deredeo Dreadnought that gave this exact aura. But then the Deredeo got moved to Legends because it should have been in the first place. And
you don't like the Robo Dreadnought? We need an episode on Dreadnoughts.
Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love my speedboat. I love my speedboat of doom. But I don't think that it should have ever had rules for 40k because those Dreadnoughts are gone.
They are gone. And we need to do an episode to talk about that.
Yes.
You can catch us doing Lorebeards 40k every Wednesday, every Saturday, 2 to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, or maybe even chime in on what you'd like us to see cover, please join our Discord, which I will try to put a link into the chat for everybody. There you go.
Heck yeah.
And we will be covering. So today's episode was supposed to be about. What was it supposed to be about today?
Oh, it's about the thing.
Yeah, thank you. That's
and
super helpful. That's super helpful.
It's about Warhammer stuff, Ross.
We were supposed to be talking about Armageddon today, and we had to change our plans at the last minute. So our next lore episode will be on Armageddon because that's what you voted for, and we will be doing that.
Hell yeah.
So thank you, Nightbot. Thank you, Vonnie DK, for pointing that out. That I think it did go through eventually. So Armageddon is the topic for next Saturday, but we also have a cool one coming up on Wednesday. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
For this episode.
And remember, folks, in the grim darkness of the far future,
there is only lore. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, take care.